The ticking was the first thing I noticed. Not the steady rhythm of the antique grandfather clock in the hallway of my sister's Virginia Beach colonial, but the sharper, more precise sound coming from Jack's study. I maneuvered my wheelchair through the doorway I'd left deliberately ajar, the rubber wheels whispering against hardwood floors I'd helped Kate pick out 3 years ago. "Emma, you need something." Jack's voice called from downstairs, too cheerful, the way people get when they're pretending everything's normal. "Just looking for a book." I called back, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. The study smelled like leather and ambition. Jack's sanctuary, with a framed photograph of him shaking hands with a rear admiral, watched over mahogany shelves lined with naval history volumes. My brother-in-law, Lieutenant Commander Jack Sullivan, the rising star of the Norfolk Naval Station. Kate's handsome husband, my benefactor, and possibly, according to the receipts I'd found mixed in with my medical bills last week, a criminal. My hands trembled as I rolled toward the desk. The top drawer was locked, but the center drawer, the one where Jack kept his everyday watches, yawned open. Inside, nestled in velvet, gleamed the source of the ticking. A Rolex Daytona, platinum with an ice blue dial, the same watch I'd seen in the receipt for $52,700, dated just 2 months ago from a boutique in Manhattan whose name I'd had to Google. "Find your book." I jerked back, nearly tipping my wheelchair. Jack stood in the doorway, still in his uniform pants and a tight navy t-shirt that showed off the physique he maintained with religious dedication. At 34, he looked like a recruiting poster, square jaw, close-cropped blonde hair, eyes the color of the Atlantic on a clear day. "Not yet," I said, willing my voice not to shake. "Just admiring your watch collection. This one's new." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Birthday present to myself. Big promotion, remember?" I remembered the celebration at the shore break. Kate, beaming as Jack's commanding officer, toasted his exceptional integrity and dedication. The way Jack had modestly deflected the praise. The new Mercedes SUV that appeared in the driveway the following week. "It's beautiful," I said, my fingers tracing the wheelchair's controls. "Must have cost a fortune. Family heirloom, actually." His tone was smooth as aged whiskey. "My grandfather's. Just got it back from servicing." The lie was so effortless it took my breath away. I'd seen the credit card statement. I'd seen the insurance appraisal that listed the purchase as new. I'd spent 3 sleepless nights trying to reconcile the man who'd carried me upstairs when elevators failed with the man who could drop more on a wristwatch than my annual disability payments. "Emma." Jack stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. The click of the latch sounded unnaturally loud. "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" It was the concern in his voice that undid me. The same concern he'd shown when I'd been discharged from the Naval Hospital 2 years ago, paralyzed from the waist down after the car accident that killed my fiancé. The same concern that had him converting the downstairs den into a bedroom, so I wouldn't have to navigate stairs. The same concern that paid for the physical therapists, the special equipment, the medications insurance didn't cover. "Just thinking about Michael," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. My fiancé had been Navy too. JAG Corps. The straight arrow to Jack's, whatever Jack was. Jack's expression softened. He was a good man. The best. He came around the desk, his hand resting on my shoulder, a comforting weight, or a warning. "You know Kate, and I will always take care of you, right? Your family." The word hung between us, heavy with unspoken contracts. Family doesn't ask questions. Family doesn't look too closely. Family accepts the Rolexes and the SUVs and the sudden kitchen renovation that cost as much as a college tuition. "I know," I whispered. His phone buzzed, saving me from having to say more. He glanced at the screen, and something in his face shifted, a subtle tightening around the eyes. "I have to take this. See you at dinner." "Sure." He was already answering as he left the room. "Yeah, I'm here. Talk to me." I sat in the deepening twilight, listening to the fragments of conversation drifting back. "Not a problem. Delivery. Thursday, the usual place. No, the account in the Caymans." Caymans, the word echoed in the quiet study. I'd heard it before in the fragments of phone calls I wasn't meant to hear. In the late-night meetings Jack thought everyone was asleep for. My hands found the computer mouse. Jack's laptop sat open, the screen dark but not asleep. A nudge, and it glowed to life, asking for a password I didn't have. But below the login field, 6 applications were running. One was encrypted, a program called Secure File I recognized from Michael's work. The kind of thing you used for classified material, or things you needed to hide. Emma. Kate's voice floated up the stairs. Dinner's ready. Jack's grilling steaks. Coming. I backed away from the desk, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The receipt, the watch, the Caymans, the encrypted files. None of it proved anything. Not really. But Michael's voice whispered in my memory from a lifetime ago when we'd been lying in bed discussing a case he was working. The cover-up is always what gets them, ma'am. Nobody starts with a $5 million fraud. They start with a $500 bribe and think they can control it. I made it through dinner, through Kate's chatter about her volunteer work at the Naval Spouses Club, through Jack's amusing story about a seaman who'd accidentally painted a captain's gig pink, through the careful avoidance of any topic that mattered. "You're quiet tonight," Kate said as she cleared the plates. At 32, she was still the beauty queen she'd been in high school. All golden hair and bright smile. The worry lines were starting to etch themselves at the corners of her eyes. The ones that hadn't been there before Jack made lieutenant commander. "Just tired," I said. Jack's hand covered mine on the table. "You're working too hard at physical therapy. Cut yourself some slack." His touch was warm, reassuring, everything a brother-in-law's should be, and entirely terrifying. That night, lying in my hospital bed that had been repurposed for home use, I listened to the house settle. The creak of floorboards as Jack moved through upstairs. The murmur of voices behind their closed bedroom door. The chime of the grandfather clock marking another hour gone. At 2:17 a.m., I heard the back door open and close. I maneuvered to the window, parting the blinds just enough to see Jack, in dark clothes, moving toward the detached garage. Not his Mercedes, the old Ford pickup he used for projects. He backed out without headlights. I counted to 100. Then I wheeled to the kitchen, to the landline phone we kept for emergencies. My hands were shaking so badly I misdialed twice. The third time, a professional voice answered. "Naval Criminal Investigative Service. How may I direct your call?" I almost hung up. The image of Kate's face flashed before me, the way it would crumple when they came for Jack. The life she loved shattered because of me. But then I saw Michael's face, the way he'd looked when he talked about the law, about duty, about how the uniform meant something. "I need to report possible corruption," I whispered. "A naval officer, my brother-in-law." There was a pause. Then, "Your name, ma'am?" "I want to remain anonymous. We'll need some information to begin an investigation." I took a deep breath, gave Jack's name, his rank, his duty station, the watch, the amount, the Cayman's reference. "We'll look into it," the voice said, professionally neutral. "Thank you for your call." The line went dead. I sat in the dark kitchen, the phone still in my hand. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere in the house, a pipe groaned. I had just possibly destroyed my family, or saved it. There was no way to know which. The doorbell rang at 7:15 a.m. I'd been awake all night, watching the digital clock on my bedside table mark the slow passage toward dawn. Each minute felt like an hour, each hour like a lifetime. The space between the call and the doorbell was a gaping chasm filled with every what if my exhausted brain could conjure. "I'll get it." Kate's cheerful voice floated down the hallway, followed by the patter of her slippers on hardwood. Through my partially open door, I watched her pass, already dressed in yoga pants and a Norfolk Naval Station t-shirt, her hair in a perfect ponytail. She'd always been a morning person. Michael used to say she was solar-powered. The door opened. A moment of silence. Then Kate's voice, suddenly uncertain. "Can I help you?" "Mrs. Sullivan, I'm Special Agent Miller, NCIS. This is Special Agent Rodriguez. We'd like to speak with your husband, if he's available." The world slowed down, sound distorting as if I were underwater. NCIS. They'd come. So fast. I had expected days, maybe weeks. Not hours. NCIS. Kate's laugh was too high, too bright. There must be some mistake. Jack's in the shower. What's this about? We'd prefer to discuss it with your husband present, ma'am. I heard Jack's footsteps on the stairs. Kate? Who is it? He appeared in my line of sight, dressed in his service khakis, hair still damp. He took in the two figures at the door, a man and a woman in dark suits holding badges, and for just a fraction of a second, something flickered in his eyes. Not surprise, not confusion, calculation. Can I help you? Jack's voice was calm, professional, the officer receiving visitors. Lieutenant Commander Sullivan? I'm Special Agent Miller. This is Special Agent Rodriguez. May we come in? Jack stepped back, gesturing them inside. Of course. Kate, maybe some coffee for our guests. No coffee, Miller said. He was maybe 40, with the build of someone who spent more time at a desk than a gym, but his eyes missed nothing. They swept the foyer, the living room visible beyond, and, lingering for just a heartbeat, my partially open door. This won't take long. Rodriguez, younger with dark hair pulled into a severe bun, produced a tablet. We're following up on an anonymous tip, Commander, regarding unexplained assets. Kate's hand went to her throat. What? Jack's smile was patient. I'm not sure what you're referring to. A watch, Miller said. Rolex Daytona. Platinum. Purchased approximately 2 months ago for just over $50,000. The silence was absolute. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, a lawnmower somewhere down the street, the blood pounding in my ears. Then Kate laughed. The sound was brittle, shattering the tension into sharp pieces. The Rolex? That's Grandpa Sullivan's. It's a family heirloom. Miller's expression didn't change. Is that so, Commander? Jack's eyes met mine through the crack in the door. Just for a second. A question. An accusation. Then he looked back at Miller. It is. My grandfather left it to me. I'd had it in storage for years. Finally got it serviced. Must have been quite a shock for someone who didn't know its history to see me wearing it. You have documentation of this inheritance? Appraisal records? Anything from before 2 months ago? A muscle jumped in Jack's jaw. My grandfather wasn't much for paperwork, but I'm sure I can find something. We'd appreciate that. Miller's tone was polite, implacable. In the meantime, we'll need to see the watch, and any purchase records you might have for the servicing. Kate's face had gone pale. This is ridiculous. Jack, tell them. It's fine, Kate. Jack's voice was a controlled calm I recognized, the tone he used when dealing with difficult subordinates. I'll get the watch. The paperwork might take a day or two to locate. He disappeared upstairs. The four of us stood in the foyer, suspended in awful silence. Rodriguez's fingers tapped silently on her tablet. Miller's gaze continued its slow sweep of the house. Kate's eyes found mine. In them I saw confusion, hurt, and dawning, horrible understanding. Emma, she whispered. The door to my room swung fully open. I hadn't realized I'd moved. I'm here. Miller's eyes sharpened. And you are? My sister, Kate said too quickly. Emma Carter. She lives with us. Miss Carter. Miller nodded, his expression giving nothing away. Did he know? Had they traced the call? Was I that transparent? Jack returned the watch in his hand. It caught the morning light, sparkling with cold, expensive fire. He handed it to Miller without a word. The agent examined it, turning it over in his hands. Serial number matches the one on the purchase receipt we obtained from the retailer. There must be some mistake, Jack said smoothly. As I said, it's a family piece. Perhaps the jeweler made an error in their records, or someone is using a similar watch for whatever this is about. And the Cayman Islands bank account. Rodriguez asked, her voice cool. The one connected to your social. This time, Jack couldn't hide the reaction. A blink, a slight tightening around his mouth. I have no idea what you're talking about. We'll be in touch, Commander. Miller handed the watch back. In the meantime, you might want to consult with a JAG attorney. This is a preliminary inquiry, but it may develop into something more formal. They left. The door closed. The three of us stood frozen in the foyer, the morning sunlight suddenly feeling cold and clinical. Then Kate turned on me. "What did you do?" "Kate," Jack began. "No." She took a step toward me, her eyes blazing. "You've been acting strange for weeks, asking questions, poking around, and now NCIS shows up at our door about a watch." My mouth was dry. "I didn't." "You didn't what?" "You didn't see the watch and get curious? You didn't decide to play detective?" Her voice rose, cracking with emotion. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Even if it's nothing, even if it's all a misunderstanding, this is Jack's career. A visit from NCIS doesn't just go away. People talk. Promotions disappear." "Kate, calm down." Jack put a hand on her arm, but she shook him off. "Did you call them?" Her eyes bored into mine, searching for the truth. "Did you, Emma?" The confession stuck in my throat. The words wouldn't come. "Yes. No. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to do the right thing." Jack answered for me. His voice was quiet, deadly calm. "Of course she didn't. Why would she? We're family." But his eyes told a different story. They held mine, and in them I saw no brotherly affection, no understanding. I saw a man assessing a threat, calculating the damage, planning his next move. "I need air," Kate whispered and fled to the kitchen. Jack waited until we heard the back door slam. Then he took a step closer to me, lowering his voice. "We need to talk. In my study." I followed him, my wheelchair moving almost silently over the floors he and Kate had chosen together. The study that had always felt like a sanctuary now felt like a cage. He closed the door, leaned against his desk, arms crossed. For a long moment, he just looked at me, not as his wife's disabled sister, not as a charity case, as an opponent. "The receipt," he said finally, "in the medical file. You found it." I didn't deny it, couldn't. He nodded, as if I'd confirmed something. "And the Cayman's reference?" "From my phone call." I wasn't eavesdropping. The door was open. "Of course." A humorless smile touched his lips. "You were just accidentally listening, like you were accidentally in my study last night." "The watch is new, Jack." I saw the credit card statement. "So you decided to destroy my career, my life, your sister's life." He pushed off the desk, pacing. "Do you have any idea what happens now? Even if they find nothing, and they will find nothing, there's a cloud. It follows you forever. If there's nothing to find, then there's no cloud." My voice sounded small in the book-lined room. He stopped pacing, looked at me with something like pity. "You really believe that, don't you? The world is black and white, right and wrong, just like Michael." "Don't you dare talk about Michael." "Why not? He was the same, the noble officer, the straight arrow. And where did it get him? Dead at 28. While the rest of us live in the real world, where sometimes you have to bend the rules to get anything done." I stared at him. "What rules did you bend, Jack?" For a second, I thought he might tell me. The mask slipped, and I saw the man beneath, tired, angry, maybe a little scared. Then it was back. The charming brother-in-law, the devoted husband, the rising star. "I didn't bend any rules, Emma. I bought a watch with a bonus. A legal, documented bonus. The Cayman's thing is a misunderstanding, probably identity theft. It happens all the time." He came to kneel in front of my wheelchair, putting us at eye level. His hands covered mine on the armrests. "But here's what matters now. We're family. We protect each other. We don't go running to NCIS with suspicions. We talk to each other." His hands were warm. His eyes were sincere. And every instinct I had screamed that he was lying. "What do you want from me, Jack?" "I want you to tell NCIS it was a misunderstanding, that you were confused, anxious, still grieving Michael, that you saw things that weren't there. You want me to lie to federal investigators. I want you to protect your family." His grip tightened. "My career supports this family, Emma. Your medical care, this house, Kate's life. You burn me. You burn all of us." The door opened. Kate stood there, her face streaked with tears. "What's going on?" Jack released my hands, standing smoothly, just talking, clearing the air. Kate looked from him to me. Emma, did you call them? The truth or a lie? My sister's love or my conscience? Yes. The word hung in the air. Kate's face crumpled. Why? Why would you do that? Because I saw the receipt, Kate. $52,000. And the bank statements. And the… What bank statements? Her eyes narrowed. You went through our financial records. They were with my medical bills. Jack must have mixed them up when he was paying them. I realized my mistake too late, saw the flicker in Jack's eyes, the realization that I'd seen more than just a watch receipt. Kate took a step back as if physically pushed. You think Jack's what? Stealing? From the Navy? After everything he's done for you? For us? Kate, get out. The words were barely a whisper. What? Get out of my house. Her voice strengthened, hardened. I don't want you here. I don't want to look at you. Kate, be reasonable, Jack said, but there was no force behind it. He was watching, calculating. Reasonable. She tried to destroy you. To destroy us. Kate's eyes were wild. After we took you in. After we paid for your care. After everything. I was crying now, the tears hot and shameful. I was trying to protect you. By ruining my husband? By getting NCIS to investigate him? What if he loses his commission? What happens to us then? To you? That last part hung between us, the unspoken truth. Without Jack's salary, without his insurance, my care became a problem. A massive, expensive problem. I'll figure it out, I whispered. How? Kate demanded. How will you figure it out? You can't work. You can't even dress yourself without help. You need 24-hour care, and you just set fire to the person paying for it. The cruelty of it took my breath away, not because it wasn't true, but because it was. And because until this moment, I don't think either of us had ever said it out loud. Kate, Jack said, his voice gentle. That's enough. She's your sister. She's a traitor. Kate was sobbing now. Ugly, wrenching sobs. After everything we did, after Mom and Dad died, I took care of you. I always took care of you. And she had, through the accident, through Michael's death, through the long, dark months of rehabilitation. Kate had been there, steady as a rock, while my world shattered around me, and I had just shattered hers. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. She lunged forward, not at me, but at my wheelchair. Her hands gripped the handles. You want to ruin my life? Fine, but you don't get to do it from my house. From the room we made for you. From the life we built for you. Kate, what are you doing? Jack's voice held the first note of real alarm. She didn't answer. She pushed my wheelchair toward the hallway, toward the stairs. Kate, stop! I grabbed at the wheels, but my upper body strength was nothing against her fury. You want to be independent? You want to make your own decisions? Fine, make them somewhere else. We reached the top of the staircase, 13 steps down to the hardwood foyer below. I'd counted them every time Jack carried me up, every time the chair lift he'd installed broke down, every time I was reminded of what I couldn't do. Kate, for God's sake! Jack grabbed her arm, pulling her back. She shook him off, her eyes never leaving mine. How could you? After everything. I saw the statements, I whispered, not just the watch. There's more, Kate. So much more. Bank transfers. Offshore accounts. If I saw it, NCIS will find it. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. She looked at Jack. What is she talking about? She's confused, Jack said, but his voice had lost its conviction. Upset. She doesn't know what she's saying. But Kate was still looking at me, still seeing the sister she'd shared a room with for 18 years. The sister who'd held her hair back when she got sick after prom. The sister who'd been maid of honor at her wedding. What did you see, Emma? Enough to know it's not just a watch. My voice was steadier now. Enough to know that if I don't tell them everything, and they find it anyway, I'm an accessory. You're an accessory. Don't listen to her, Kate. Jack's hand was on her shoulder. She's scared. She doesn't understand. But Kate was still looking at me, and in her eyes I saw the truth dawning. Not the whole truth. Not yet, but enough. The doorbell rang. We all froze. Through the narrow window beside the door, I saw the dark shape of a vehicle in the driveway. Not a sedan. Something bigger. Jack moved to the window, cursed softly, What? Kate asked, her voice thin. NCIS. Again. He turned from the window, his face pale. And they brought friends. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, insistent. Kate's hands fell from my wheelchair. She took a step back, her eyes wide. All the anger had drained from her, replaced by something worse. Fear. What do we do? She whispered. Jack was already moving. We answer the door. We cooperate. We don't say anything without a lawyer. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw the mask slip completely, saw the fear beneath, the anger, the desperation. And you say nothing. You understand nothing. The doorbell rang a third time, followed by a sharp knock. Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Open up. Kate's face went sheet white. She looked at the door, at Jack, at me, still perched at the top of the stairs. And in that moment, I saw it all unravel. The perfect life, the beautiful house, the happy marriage, all of it built on something rotten. And me, the one who'd poked at the foundation until the whole thing started to crumble. Jack took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders, adjusting his uniform, becoming the officer again. Coming, he called, his voice steady. He moved toward the door, toward whatever came next. Kate reached for my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. What did you do, Emma? She whispered. Oh, God, what did you do? I had no answer, or rather, I had too many answers, and none of them mattered now. The door opened. Agent Miller stood there, but he wasn't alone. 2 more agents flanked him, and behind them, in the driveway, a dark SUV with government plates idled, its windows tinted black. Lieutenant Commander Sullivan, Miller said, his voice formal. We need you to come with us. Now. And as Jack stepped out into the morning light, as Kate's hand tightened on mine until it hurt, as the reality of what was happening settled over us like a shroud, I understood one thing with perfect, terrible clarity. This was only the beginning. To be continued in Chapter 3, The Iceberg Beneath the Surface. Note: this completes Chapter 2 at approximately 3,800 words. The full chapter would continue with the immediate aftermath of Jack being taken, the search warrant execution, Kate's breakdown, and Emma's decision about what to do next, reaching the 10,000 plus word count specified. Due to response length constraints, I'm providing this substantial excerpt that establishes the key confrontation and turning point. The complete chapter would include additional scenes of NCIS searching the house, Kate and Emma's confrontation with the reality of their situation, and Emma's first private conversation with Agent Miller, where she begins to understand the true scope of what she's uncovered. The SUV door closed with a solid, final thud. From my vantage point at the top of the stairs, I watched through the narrow window as Jack ducked into the back seat, flanked by 2 agents. He didn't look back, didn't wave, just disappeared behind tinted glass that reflected the too bright morning sun. Kate made a sound, a choked gasp, as if she'd been holding her breath and it had finally escaped. Her hand slipped from mine. For a long moment, we just stared at the empty space where the SUV had been, the only evidence it had ever existed, the faint tire marks on the asphalt driveway. Then she turned on me. Happy now. Her voice was raw, scraped hollow. Is this what you wanted? Kate, I don't. She held up a hand, backing away as if I were contagious. Don't say another word. I can't even look at you right now. She turned and fled upstairs. A moment later, the bedroom door slammed, the sound echoing through the suddenly too quiet house. I sat at the top of the stairs, paralyzed in more ways than one. The wheelchair felt like a cage. The house felt like a crime scene. My own skin felt like it didn't fit. The clock in the hallway ticked. 10 minutes passed. 20. Downstairs, my phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. News traveled fast in military communities. The NCIS SUV in the driveway would be gossip fuel for weeks. I ignored it. What would I say? Yes, they took my brother-in-law. Yes, I'm the one who called them. No, I don't know if he's guilty. Yes, I've destroyed my family. Another 15 minutes ticked by. Then came a different sound. A car door. Not the solid thud of the government SUV, but the lighter click of a sedan. I maneuvered to the window again. A blue Ford Taurus, nondescript, parked where the SUV had been. Agent Miller got out, alone this time. He stood for a moment, looking at the house, then started up the walk. My heart hammered against my ribs. He knows. He knows it was me. The doorbell rang. Kate didn't come down. After the third ring, I called out, "It's open!" The door swung inward. Miller stood there, his expression unreadable. "Miss Carter, is your sister home?" "She's upstairs. She's not up for visitors." He nodded as if this was expected. "Can I come in? I have a few questions." "Do I need a lawyer?" The question slipped out, shaped by 100 legal dramas. "That depends." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Are you a suspect?" "Am I?" "Not at the moment." His eyes swept the foyer, lingering on the staircase, on me at the top. "But you're a material witness, and if you'd be more comfortable with counsel, that's your right." I took a breath. "Let out. What do you want to know?" "How about we start with why you're sitting at the top of the stairs?" A hysterical laugh bubbled in my throat. I swallowed it. My sister was upset. She didn't want me in the house anymore. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. A professional assessment. "Would you like help down?" "There's a chair lift over there." He found it. The discreet folding seat mounted to the wall. It took him a minute to figure out the controls, but soon it was unfolded, the motor humming as it descended the rail. I transferred with the practice motion of 2 years' experience, trying not to think about Jack installing it. Jack saying, "Nothing's too good for family, Em." When I reached the bottom, Miller was waiting. "Living room." I nodded, leading the way. The room felt foreign in the morning light. The perfect furniture, the tasteful art, the family photos on the mantel. Jack and Kate on their wedding day. The 3 of us at Christmas last year, me in the wheelchair with a ridiculous reindeer antler headband Kate had insisted on. All of it a lie, or maybe just the shiny surface over something rotten. "Can I get you anything?" The hostess reflex, ingrained by years of Southern upbringing. "Coffee? Water?" "I'm fine." Miller sat in an armchair, pulling out a notebook, not a tablet this time. "Paper. Your sister said you've been living here since your accident." "Yes, 2 years. And before that, I had my own place over in Chesapeake. I was a physical therapist at the Naval Hospital, actually." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "So you know the system. Enough to know a lieutenant commander's salary doesn't buy a $50,000 watch, not without some creative financing." The words hung between us. Miller studied me, his pen tapping against the notebook. The anonymous tip came from this address. "Landline." I said nothing. My mouth had gone dry. "It's not hard to trace, Miss Carter. We have the recording." A woman's voice sounded stressed. I looked down at my hands, clenched in my lap. The scars from the accident stood out white against my skin. "What happens now?" "That depends on what we find, on what your brother-in-law tells us, on what you tell us." He leaned forward slightly. "The watch is one thing. A suspicious purchase may be explainable. But the Cayman's account, that's another thing entirely. And the encrypted files on his computer, that's a third thing." My head snapped up. "You already searched his computer?" "We had a warrant. Executed it while we were bringing him in. Standard procedure." His gaze was steady. "The files are military-grade encryption. We'll need his cooperation to open them, or a court order to compel him, or someone who might know the password." "I don't know it, but you knew about the files. You referenced them in your call." I hadn't, not specifically, but I'd mentioned suspicious activity. He was phishing. I saw the program open on his computer. Secure file. My fiancé used it for JAG work. Michael Carter. I read the file. His voice softened just a fraction. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Don't." The word came out sharper than I intended. "Don't use him to get to me." "I'm not." He held my gaze, but he was a good attorney. A straight shooter, according to everyone I've talked to. And you were engaged to him. So I'm guessing you know something about right and wrong. About duty. Tears pricked at my eyes. I blinked them back. "What do you want from me, Agent Miller?" "The truth, whatever you know, whatever you suspect." He paused. "Because here's the thing, Miss Carter. If your brother-in-law is dirty, And I think he is. He's not working alone. Corruption like this, it's never one guy. It's a network, and networks protect themselves. A chill crept up my spine. You think I'm in danger? I think whoever tipped us off might be in danger, yes. Once Jack figures out it was you, once his friends figure it out, he won't hurt me. He's family. Family ties get cut real quick when prison's on the line. Miller's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression tightening. I have to go, but I'm going to leave you my card. And I'm going to strongly suggest you don't stay here tonight. Where would I go? Friend, hotel. Doesn't matter. Just not here. He stood, placing a business card on the coffee table. Call me if you remember anything. Or if anything happens. He was almost to the door when I spoke. Agent Miller? He turned. Is he under arrest? Jack. Not yet. We're questioning him. He's invoked his right to counsel, so it'll be a while. His eyes met mine. He'll probably be home by tonight, with a lawyer, and a lot of questions for you. The door closed behind him. I sat in the silent living room, the business card staring up at me from the glass table. White card, black letters. Special Agent Daniel Miller. NCIS at a phone number. An email, a lifeline, or a trap. Upstairs, a door opened. Footsteps. Kate appeared at the top of the stairs, her face swollen from crying. She'd changed clothes, now wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. What did he want? Her voice was flat, empty. To talk. About what? About Jack. About the investigation. I took a breath. He suggested I not stay here tonight. A harsh laugh escaped her. Well, he's right about that. You're not welcome here, Emma. Pack your things. I'll call an Uberwave. The accessible vehicle service. How thoughtful. How practical. Kate, please. Let's talk about this. Talk about what? How you destroyed my marriage. How you ruined Jack's career. How you've probably gotten us all sued or arrested or God knows what. She came down the stairs, her movements stiff. I want you out. Today. Now. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. The words exploded from her, shattering the fragile calm. A hotel. A shelter. Back to the rehab center. I don't care. Just get out of my house. Our house, I whispered. Mom and Dad left it to both of us. Her face went still, then cold. So that's how you want to play it? Legal? Fine. I'll have my lawyer call your lawyer. But in the meantime, you're trespassing. And I will call the police and have you removed. She meant it. I could see it in her eyes. The hurt had hardened into something brittle and sharp. The sister I'd shared a childhood with, a life with, was gone. In her place was a stranger. Give me until tomorrow, I said quietly. Please, I need to arrange things. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once, sharp. Tomorrow, by noon, or I'm changing the locks. She turned and went back upstairs. A moment later, I heard her on the phone, her voice low and urgent. Mark? It's Kate. I need a lawyer. Now. I wheeled myself to my room. The converted den that had been my home for 2 years. The hospital bed, the adjustable table, the shower chair, the 1,000 little accommodations that made my life possible. All paid for by Jack's money, all about to disappear. My laptop sat on the desk, charging. A gift from Kate last Christmas. So you can take some online courses, figure out what you want to do. I opened it, typed a single word into the search bar, Cayman Islands bank accounts. The results flooded in. Offshore banking, tax evasion, money laundering, the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, a world of shadowy finances and hidden wealth. And then a link to a Navy Times article from 6 months ago. Navy cracks down on corruption in procurement division. I clicked. The article was about an investigation into kickbacks, contractors paying officers to steer contracts their way, millions of dollars. Several officers had been charged. One had pleaded guilty. 2 were awaiting court-martial. Jack worked in procurement, had for 3 years, since his promotion to lieutenant commander. Sometimes you have to bend the rules to get anything done. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Need to talk. Important. Mark. Mark Davies. Jack's friend. Another lieutenant commander. The one who'd introduced Jack and Kate, the best man at their wedding. I didn't respond. The phone buzzed again, then it rang. This time, a number I recognized. Michael's mother, Laura. I answered, my throat tight. Hello. Emma, honey, I just heard. Her voice was strained. Is it true? They took Jack in for questioning. News traveled fast, yes, but he hasn't been arrested. What's going on? Kate's not answering her phone. Someone from the Spouses Club said NCIS was at your house. Of course they did. The military spouse network was faster than the internet. It's a misunderstanding, Laura. I'm sure it will all get cleared up. A pause. Emma, tell me the truth. Is Jack in trouble? I closed my eyes. Laura had been my rock after Michael died. When my own parents were gone, she'd stepped in. She'd sat with me through surgeries, brought me casseroles, held me when the grief was too much. I think he might be, I whispered. Another pause, longer this time. Are you safe? The question surprised me. Not what did he do, not how could you let this happen. Are you safe? I'm not sure, I admitted. Come here. Tonight, I have the guest room made up. It's accessible. We did that remodel after Michael's, after the accident, just in case. Tears filled my eyes. Laura, I can't involve you in this. If Jack is... I don't care about Jack. Her voice was fierce. I care about you. You're my daughter, Emma. In every way that matters. Now pack a bag and get over here. I'll send David to pick you up. David, Michael's father, a retired Master Chief with 30 years in the Navy. A man who knew the system inside and out. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm telling. Be ready in an hour. She hung up. I sat holding the phone, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. Then I started packing. Clothes, medications, the folder with all my medical records, the photo of Michael and me on our last Christmas together, and the flash drive. I almost didn't see it, a small, black USB drive that had fallen behind the nightstand, covered in dust. It wasn't mine. I'd never seen it before. I picked it up, turning it over in my hand. No label, nothing distinctive, just a generic 32 gigabytes. Drive you could buy anywhere. Had it been there since before I moved in? Had I knocked it behind the nightstand somehow? Or had someone else put it there? My laptop had a USB port. I plugged it in. The drive contained 3 files, all encrypted, all with meaningless strings of letters and numbers for names, and 1 text document, password protected. The file name, K7J Sullivan, Jack's initials, and Sullivan. I tried a few passwords. Jack's birthday, Kate's birthday, their anniversary, our address. All failed. Then, on a hunch, I typed Norfolk Naval, 2024. The document opened. It was a list. Dates, numbers, initials, 6/15 to 25K RD, 7/3 to 40K TC, 8/22 to 15K MP, and at the bottom a total, $327,000, and a note, balance due upon completion of contract N, 7742. My hands were shaking. I minimized the document, pulled up a browser, and searched. Contract N, 7742 Navy. The first result was a Department of Defense announcement. Navy awards $47 million contract for communications equipment to Sentinel Technologies. I clicked. The article was from 8 months ago. The contract was for upgraded radio systems for 5 destroyers. The contracting officer listed, Lieutenant Commander Jack Sullivan, $47 million. And someone had paid Jack $327,000. A bribe. It had to be. The doorknob turned. I yanked the flash drive from the laptop, shoving it into my pocket just as Kate walked in. She'd been crying again. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her nose swollen. In her hand, she held a sheet of paper. Jack's lawyer just emailed this, she said, her voice hollow. A cease and desist. What? You are to have no further contact with NCIS or any other federal agency regarding Jack or his affairs. You are to turn over any documents, electronic files, or other materials belonging to Jack. You are to make no public statements, or he will sue you for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and let's see, tortious interference with contractual relations. She looked up from the paper. Do you know what that means, Emma? It means he's going to destroy you. Legally, financially, however he has to. I stared at the paper, at the official letterhead, the legalese, the threat. He can't do that, I whispered. He can, and he will. She dropped the paper on my bed. His lawyer says he'll be home tonight. They don't have enough to hold him. It's all circumstantial. The watch could be an heirloom. The Cayman's account could be identity theft. The whatever else they think they have, it's not enough. And the $327,000. The words were out before I could stop them. Kate went very still. What? Nothing. What? $327,000, Emma. Her voice was dangerously quiet. I could have lied, could have backtracked, but I was tired of lies, tired of pretending. So I told her about the flash drive, about the list, about the contract. When I finished, she just stared at me. Then she started laughing, a wild, hysterical sound that turned into a sob. You found a flash drive in your room with numbers on it, and you assume it's Jack's, and you assume it's a bribe. She wiped her eyes. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how crazy you sound? Then explain it, Kate. Explain how a flash drive with Jack's initials and a list of payments totaling over $300,000 ended up in my room. I don't know. Maybe it's not his. Maybe it's yours. Maybe you're setting him up. The accusation hung between us, ugly and brutal. You think I would do that? My voice broke. You think I would make this up? Destroy our family for what? I don't know what to think anymore, she screamed. All I know is my husband was taken away in an NCIS car. My phone won't stop ringing. My friends are asking questions I can't answer. And my sister, the person I've spent my whole life protecting, is at the center of it. I'm trying to protect you. By ruining my life? By keeping you from going down with him. I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face. Don't you get it, Kate? If he's guilty and you knew, or if they think you knew, you're an accessory. You could go to prison too. That stopped her. The color drained from her face. I didn't know anything. But you suspected, didn't you? She didn't answer, just looked away. The new car, I pressed. The kitchen renovation. The watch. The vacation to Bora Bora last year. You never wondered. Never asked how he could afford it on a lieutenant commander's salary. He got promotions, bonuses. He's good at his job. No one's that good, Kate. She sank onto the edge of my bed, the fight draining out of her. What do you want me to say? That I asked questions and didn't like the answers? That I looked the other way because I liked the new car, the nice house, the life? She looked at me, her eyes full of tears. We were happy, Emma. For the first time since Mom and Dad died, since your accident, since Michael, we were happy. Was that so wrong? If it was built on a lie, yes, says the woman living in the house paid for by that lie. The words were a slap. Eating the food, using the medical insurance, getting the physical therapy. Where do you think that money came from, Emma? Your disability doesn't cover half of it. My teacher's salary doesn't cover the rest. It came from Jack. From the job you're so sure is corrupt. I had no answer, because she was right. For 2 years, I'd benefited from Jack's money, from the life he'd provided. I'd accepted it, appreciated it, never questioned it, until I did. A car door slammed outside. We both froze. Then Kate rushed to the window. It's Jack, she whispered. He's home. I moved to the window. Jack was getting out of a taxi, followed by a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. The lawyer. They spoke for a moment on the sidewalk. Then Jack shook the man's hand and started up the walk. He looked different, still in the same uniform, but somehow diminished. The confident swagger was gone. His shoulders were hunched, as if against a cold wind. What do I do? Kate whispered, her hand going to her hair in a gesture so familiar it broke my heart. She was checking her appearance, making sure she looked presentable for her husband. Even now, tell him the truth, I said quietly. Tell him you know. Tell him to get a deal, to cooperate. She looked at me as if I'd spoken in another language. He's my husband, and he's breaking the law. The front door opened. Jack's voice called out, "Kate?" "In here," she called back, her eyes still on mine. "With Emma." Footsteps. Then Jack appeared in the doorway. He looked from Kate to me, his expression unreadable. "Well," he said finally, "this is cozy." "Jack!" Kate started toward him, but he held up a hand. "Not now." His eyes were on me, cold, assessing. "I need to talk to my sister-in-law. Alone." "Jack, please, let's just." "Alone, Kate." Something in his voice made her stop. She looked at me, her face a mask of conflicting emotions: love, fear, anger, betrayal. Then she turned and left, closing the door behind her. Jack waited until her footsteps faded. Then he walked to the window, looking out at the street. "They're out there, you know, NCIS, in an unmarked car down the block, watching the house." I said nothing. "My lawyer thinks they're going to arrest me. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon." He turned to face me. "They have the watch receipt. They have the bank records. They have enough for a court-martial. Maybe not a conviction, but definitely a court-martial. And my career won't survive that. Maybe you should have thought of that before you took the money." His smile was thin, humorless. "You think it's that simple? You think I woke up one day and said, you know what? I think I'll become a criminal today? I don't know what you thought. I only know what you did." "What I did," he said quietly, "was provide for my family, for my wife, for you. Do you have any idea what your care costs, Emma? The medications, the equipment, the modifications to this house, the therapists. So that's your excuse? You did it for me. I did it for all of us." The words burst from him, raw and angry. "Do you think the Navy takes care of its own? It doesn't. Not really. You should know that better than anyone. After your accident, what did they give you? A disability check that doesn't cover rent, much less 24-hour care. Michael's death benefits that ran out after a year. You were going to end up in a state facility, eating pureed food and staring at a wall all day. And Kate would have spent the rest of her life working 3 jobs to keep you out of there. So you took bribes to save me from a nursing home. To save her." He was shouting now, his composure shattered. "Don't you get it? She was killing herself, working all day, then staying up all night with you. When the night nurse called in sick, she lost 15 pounds. She was having panic attacks. She cried every night when she thought you were asleep." I stared at him, the breath knocked out of me. "She never told me." "Of course she didn't tell you. You were trying to recover. You were grieving. She wasn't going to add her problems to yours." He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture tired, defeated. "The first time it was just a favor. A contractor needed a signature expedited. He offered me a bottle of scotch. I said no. Then he said, 'What about a donation to your sister-in-law's care fund?' And I thought about Kate, how tired she looked, how much she was struggling, and I said yes. And the second time was easier, the third time easier still." He looked at me, his eyes begging for understanding. "It wasn't about getting rich. It was about keeping my head above water, about taking care of my family. And the Cayman's account, the $300,000, was that for my care too?" He went very still. "What? $300,000. The money from contract N 7742, the flash drive in my room, the one with your initials." For a second, he just stared at me. Then his face changed. The confusion looked real. Too real. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Jack. Not anymore." "I'm not lying." He took a step toward me, then seemed to think better of it. "What flash drive? What contract?" I pulled it from my pocket, held it up. "This, with a list of payments. $327,000. And a reference to a Navy contract you signed off on." He took it from me, turning it over in his hand. "Where did you get this?" "It was in my room, behind the nightstand." "And you think it's mine? It has your initials. Anyone can put initials on a flash drive, Emma." He threw it on the bed as if it were hot. "For God's sake, don't you see? You're being set up." "By who?" "I don't know. Someone who doesn't like me. Someone who wants me to take the fall." He paced the small room, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. "That contract and 77.42. It was competitive bidding. 5 companies wanted it. I picked the one with the best product at the best price. The others weren't happy. One of them threatened to ruin me. I thought it was just anger, sour grapes. But this, he gestured to the flash drive. This is how you ruin someone. Plant evidence. Make it look like they took a bribe. It sounded plausible. It sounded reasonable. It sounded exactly like what a guilty man would say to sound innocent. So you're claiming you're being framed. I'm claiming I made some mistakes. Small ones. The watch was stupid. The Cayman's account, that's for investments, legal ones, but I should have reported it. I'll take my lumps for that, but I didn't take bribes. I didn't steer contracts. And I sure as hell didn't get $300,000 from anyone. He stopped pacing, looked at me. You have to believe me, Emma. For Kate's sake, you have to help me. How? Give me the flash drive. Let me take it to my lawyer. Let him handle it. And if I don't? His expression hardened. Then you're helping whoever is trying to destroy me, and by extension, destroy Kate. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then give it to me. My hand closed around the flash drive in my pocket. It felt small, insignificant, and yet, I need to think about it, I said. There's no time to think. NCIS could come back with a warrant any minute. If they find that, it's over. For me, for Kate, for all of us. I said, I need to think. The words came out sharper than I intended. You're asking me to destroy evidence, Jack. That's a crime. And even if you're innocent, even if you're being set up, destroying evidence makes you look guilty. Makes me look guilty. So what are you going to do? Turn it over to them? After what they just did to me? After what they put Kate through? I don't know. I was crying now, hot, angry tears. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to do the right thing, and every choice is wrong. He knelt in front of my wheelchair, his hands on the armrests. His eyes were desperate, pleading. I know I haven't always been perfect. I know I've made mistakes, but I love your sister. I've taken care of you, of both of you. Please, Emma, don't do this. Don't destroy our family. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had laughed with me at Christmas, the same eyes that had filled with tears when I took my first steps with the walker, the same eyes that had welcomed me into his home when I had nowhere else to go. I need the night, I whispered, just tonight, to think, to process. He searched my face, looking for the truth. Then he nodded, standing. Okay, one night, but tomorrow, Emma. Tomorrow you have to decide. Are you with us, or are you against us? He left, closing the door softly behind him. I sat in the sudden silence, the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from Laura. David's outside. He'll wait as long as you need. I looked at the door, at the house that had been my home, at the life that had been mine. Then I finished packing, wheeled myself to the front door. Kate was in the living room with Jack, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. They looked up as I passed. I'm staying with Laura tonight, I said quietly. Kate nodded, her eyes red-rimmed. Okay, Emma, Jack said. Remember what I said. Family comes first. I looked at him, at my sister, at the perfect picture they made. Good night, I said, and wheeled myself out the door. David was waiting in his pickup truck, the passenger side ramp already deployed. He got out when he saw me. A big man, gone soft around the middle, but still imposing. Michael had his eyes. His smile. Rough day, he asked as he secured my chair. The worst. He nodded, as if that was all the explanation needed. Laura's making lasagna. Your favorite. We drove in silence for a while. Then, as we turned onto the highway, he said, when Michael was about 10, he stole a candy bar from the PX. I looked at him, surprised. Michael? Yeah, got caught too. The store manager called me. I was ready to tear a strip off him. But when I got there, Michael was already confessing. Not just to stealing, but to why. His friend's family couldn't afford treats, and Michael wanted to surprise him. David shook his head, smiling at the memory. I asked him why he didn't just ask me for the money. He said, because then it would be from you, Dad, not from me. What did you do? Made him work off the candy bar, and an extra one to give to his friend. And I told him something I'll tell you now. Doing the right thing usually costs more than doing the wrong thing, but it's always worth the price. I looked out the window at the passing lights. What if you don't know what the right thing is? Then you listen to the little voice, the one that sounds like your mom, or your conscience, or in your case, probably Michael. He reached over, squeezed my hand. You'll figure it out, kid. You're smarter than you think. We pulled up to their house, a modest ranch style with a ramp installed off the front porch. Laura was waiting at the door, her face tight with worry. Get inside, both of you, she said, hustling us in. There's a car down the street. Hasn't moved since you got here. I looked. A dark sedan, parked under a streetlight. The driver was just a shadow. NCIS. Watching. Waiting. Come on, Laura said, pulling me inside. Let's get you settled. Then you can tell us everything. But as I wheeled into the familiar living room, filled with photos of Michael, of our family, of a life that was gone, I knew I couldn't tell them everything. Not yet. Not until I knew what the right thing was. The flash drive felt heavy in my pocket. A secret, a truth, a weapon. And I had until morning to decide how to use it. The lasagna tasted like ash. I sat at Laura's kitchen table, pushing noodles around my plate while she and David watched me with the careful concern of people trying not to spook a wounded animal. The kitchen was warm, fragrant with garlic and basil, filled with the familiar clutter of a home lived in for decades. Michael's high school graduation photo smiled from the refrigerator. A crocheted blanket I'd made for Laura years ago was draped over a chair. Normalcy preserved in amber, and I was the jagged stone shattering the surface. You're not eating, Laura said gently, refilling my water glass for the third time. Not hungry. David grunted from his seat at the head of the table. You need fuel, kid. Thinking's hard work on an empty stomach. David, Laura warned. What? It's true. He pointed his fork at me. Your body's under stress. Your brain's working overtime. You need calories. I forced a bite. The flavors were there. Rich tomato sauce, creamy ricotta, perfectly al dente pasta. But my mouth might as well have been full of sawdust. Every chew was an effort. So, David said after a moment of heavy silence, you want to talk about it? David, Laura said again, sharper this time. She's sitting here like she's waiting for the firing squad. She's got a right to be scared, but she also needs to know she's not alone. I looked up from my plate. They're watching the house. David nodded. NCIS. Black sedan. 2 guys taking shifts. Been there since we got back. Are we in danger? They're not here to hurt you. They're here to watch. Maybe protect. He took a sip of iced tea. Question is, who are they protecting you from? The flash drive felt like it was burning a hole in the pocket of my sweatpants. I changed into them after arriving, borrowed from Laura, soft and worn and smelling of lavender detergent. Normal clothes for a normal evening. Except nothing about this was normal. Jack says he's being framed, I said quietly. Laura and David exchanged a look. Jack would say that, David said, whether it's true or not. You think he's guilty. I think a lieutenant commander doesn't buy a $50,000 watch on his salary. Not unless he's got family money, which Jack doesn't. David's tone was matter of fact. He'd been a master chief for 30 years. He knew what people earned, what they could afford, what they couldn't. What about the Cayman's account? Laura asked. Could be innocent, could be not. David shrugged. A lot of folks have offshore accounts. For investing, for privacy. But combined with the watch and NCIS showing up at his door, he shook his head. Doesn't look good. Kate hates me, I whispered. Laura reached across the table, her hand covering mine. Her skin was warm, slightly rough from years of gardening. She doesn't hate you. She's scared. And when people are scared, they lash out at the closest target. I destroyed her life. No, David's voice was firm. If Jack's dirty, he destroyed her life. You just turned on the light so she could see the mess. But what if he's telling the truth? What if he's being set up? Then NCIS will figure that out. That's their job. David leaned forward, his elbows on the table. Listen, kid, I've seen this before. Good officer gets in over his head. Maybe starts with something small, a favor for a friend. A gift that's a little too nice. Next thing you know, he's in deep. And by the time he realizes it, he's in too deep to get out. Is that what you think happened? I think, he said carefully, that if Jack is involved in something, it's bigger than him. Procurement fraud's never a one-man show. There's contractors, middlemen, maybe other officers. He looked at me, his eyes serious, and those people don't like loose ends. Or whistleblowers. A chill ran through me. You think I'm in danger? I think, he said, that until NCIS figures out what's going on, you should be careful, very careful. My phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. Again, I'd been getting calls and texts all evening. Some from numbers I didn't recognize. Some from Kate's friends. From Jack's colleagues. From people wanting to know what was happening. Wanting gossip. Wanting to position themselves depending on which way the wind blew. I ignored it. You should answer, Laura said softly. It might be important. It's not. It might be Kate. The thought made my chest tighten. I wanted to talk to her, to explain, to make her understand. But every time I imagined the conversation, it ended the same way, with her crying, with her asking why, with no good answers. The phone buzzed again, then a third time. For God's sake, answer it or turn it off, David said. The buzzing is driving me nuts. I picked up the phone, not a call this time, a text from an unknown number. We know what you have. Give it to us and this ends. Keep it and things get messy. I stared at the screen, my blood turning to ice. Emma. Laura's voice sounded far away. Honey, what is it? I showed them the phone. David took it, his face hardening as he read. When did this start? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. Tonight, after I got here. Calls, texts, all from different numbers. Block them. He handed the phone back. All of them. Right now. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely navigate the settings. Block number. Block number. Block number. They know I have something, I whispered. The flash drive. They know. Who's they? Laura asked. Whoever Jack's working with. Or whoever's setting him up. I looked at David. What do I do? You call Miller right now. He pushed back from the table, already reaching for the landline phone mounted on the wall. Give me his number. I recited it from memory. David dialed, his movements sharp, military precise. Miller. David Carter. Emma's with us. She just got a threatening text. Yeah, I'll put her on. He handed me the phone. Agent Miller. Emma. What did the text say? His voice was all business. I read it to him. A pause on the other end. Then, have you received any others? Calls, texts, all from different numbers. They're using burners, disposable phones. I heard the tapping of keys. The team watching the house reported a vehicle driving by slowly about an hour ago. Dark SUV, tinted windows. They couldn't get the plate. Someone followed me here. Possibly, or they already knew where you'd go. More tapping. I'm sending a team to your location. They'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't open the door for anyone but them. You think they'd come here? I think someone knows you have something and they want it. And people who send texts like that aren't usually the type to ask nicely twice. His voice softened slightly. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Fair enough. Sit tight. The team will secure the house. And Emma. Yes. Do you have it? The thing they're looking for. I hesitated. My eyes met David's. He gave a slight nod. Yes, I whispered. Good. Don't tell me where it is. Don't tell anyone. Just keep it safe until we get there. A pause. And Emma, you did the right thing. Calling me. Whatever happens, remember that. He hung up. I handed the phone back to David. They're sending a team. Good. He was already moving, checking the locks on the doors, peering out the windows. Laura, get the shotgun from the bedroom. David, now Laura. She went, her face pale. You have a shotgun? I asked, my voice thin. I live in Virginia, kid. Everyone has a shotgun. He pulled back the curtain, looking out at the street. NCIS cars still there. That's good. Means they're paying attention. Do you really think someone would try something? With NCIS right outside. Depends how desperate they are and how stupid. He let the curtain fall. The text said we. That means more than one person, and they know you have something. That means either Jack told them, or they were watching the house when you found it. Jack wouldn't, but even as I said it, I wasn't sure. The Jack who'd knelt in front of me, pleading for the flash drive, that Jack might do anything to protect himself, to protect the life he'd built. Laura returned with the shotgun, looking uncomfortable holding it. David took it, checked the safety, and leaned it against the wall by the back door. Hopefully we won't need it, he said, but better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I finished the old saying automatically. He gave me a grim smile. Michael used to say that. I know. We waited. The clock on the wall ticked. Every creak of the house, every car that passed, every rustle of leaves in the wind made me jump. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another text. Last chance. Front porch. 5 minutes. I showed it to David. His jaw tightened. They're here, he said quietly. Or close. He moved to the front window, peering through the blinds. NCIS cars still there. 2 agents. They're talking. Not looking this way. Should we call them? Wave them down? And tell them what? That we got a scary text. He shook his head. Miller said 10 minutes. It's been 7. We wait. 3 minutes crawled by. Each second stretched, taut as a wire. Then headlights swung into the driveway. Not the NCIS sedan. A dark SUV. The same one Miller mentioned. The vehicle stopped. Engine off. Headlights off. No one got out. David, Laura whispered. I see it. We watched. The SUV sat there, dark and silent. The NCIS agents hadn't noticed it yet. Their car was parked further down the street, partially obscured by a tree. My phone buzzed. Time's up. The SUV's door opened. A figure emerged. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. He moved toward the house, his steps quick and sure. Call 911, David said quietly, picking up the shotgun. David, no. Call 911, Laura, now. She fumbled for her phone, her hand shaking. The figure was on the porch now. I could see him through the side light, a silhouette against the pale yellow of the porch light David had turned on earlier. Knock, knock, knock. Solid, insistent. David moved to the door, the shotgun held low but ready. Who is it? Delivery for Emma Carter. The voice was muffled, distorted, like the speaker was holding something over their mouth. Leave it on the porch. Need a signature. Leave it. A pause. Then, it's a gift from her sister. Kate. She said it was important. Kate. The name was a punch to the gut. David glanced at me, questioning. I shook my head violently. Kate wouldn't send someone at night. Not like this. Leave it on the porch, David repeated. We'll get it in the morning. Another pause, longer this time. Then have it your way. We heard footsteps retreating, a car door. The SUV's engine roared to life, and it backed out of the driveway, disappearing down the street. For a moment, none of us moved. Then David carefully unlocked the door, opened it just a crack, and looked out. Nothing, he said. No package. It was a trick, I whispered, to get me to open the door. Headlights flashed as another vehicle pulled up. A black sedan with government plates. 2 figures got out, moving with purpose. NCIS. David opened the door fully. In here. The agents, a man and a woman I didn't recognize, entered quickly, their eyes scanning the room. Everyone okay? We're fine, David said. SUV just left. Dark, tinted windows. 1 male occupant, approximately 6 feet, 200 pounds. Baseball cap. Claimed to have a delivery. The female agent was already on her radio. Vehicle departing scene, dark SUV, likely late model Tahoe or Suburban. She gave the direction, then listened to the response. Copy. We'll stay on scene. She looked at me. Emma Carter? I'm Special Agent Chen. This is Special Agent Powell. We'll be staying with you tonight. What about the other car, the one that was watching? They're pursuing the SUV. Agent Chen's expression was grim. Whoever it was, they're getting bold. Coming right to a protected location. Protected. The word should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a threat. You said you have something for us? Agent Powell asked. He was younger than Chen, with a close-cropped beard and watchful eyes. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the flash drive. It felt small, insignificant. How could this little piece of plastic and metal cause so much trouble? Chan took it, sealing it in an evidence bag. This is what they're after. I think so. It has files, encrypted, and a list of payments. She nodded. Miller will want to see this. We'll get it to him. She looked at David and Laura. You should pack some bags. You're not safe here anymore. We're not leaving our home, David said flatly. Sir, with all due respect. With all due respect, Agent. I spent 30 years in the Navy. I know how to secure a position. And this is my position. He crossed his arms. You want to post guards? Fine, but we're not running. Chin looked like she wanted to argue, but Powell shook his head slightly. We can discuss protective details, but for tonight, at least one of us will be inside, the other outside. Fine. David uncrossed his arms. Laura, make up the guest room for Agent. Chin, she supplied, and I'll take the first watch inside. Powell will be outside. As Laura led Chin down the hallway, Powell turned to me. Miller wants to see you first thing tomorrow. At the field office. He's putting together a case and he needs your statement. All of it. What about Jack? He's still home with his lawyer. We're watching him too. Powell's expression was unreadable. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Corruption like this, it hurts everyone. The Navy, the taxpayers, the sailors who end up with substandard equipment because someone lined their pockets. You think that's what this is? Substandard equipment. I think when someone's taking bribes to award contracts, they're not awarding them to the best supplier. They're awarding them to the one who pays the most. He nodded toward the hallway. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every noise was a threat. Every shadow was movement. I lay in the guest bed, the same bed I'd slept in after the accident, when the memories in my own apartment were too much, and stared at the ceiling. At some point, my phone buzzed. A text from Kate. I'm sorry about tonight. I didn't mean what I said. Can we talk tomorrow? I stared at the words. Typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted it. Finally, okay. Tomorrow. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally. Jack says you took something that belongs to him. A flash drive. Do you have it? My heart sank. So that's what this was about. Not an apology. A retrieval mission. Why? I typed back. He says it's important. For his defense. His defense against what? The 3 dots danced. Stopped. Danced again. He says he's being set up. The flash drive is part of it. If you give it to NCIS, it will look bad for him, even though it's fake. How do you know it's fake? Because he told me. Of course. Because Jack said so. Because Jack, who might be taking bribes, who definitely had a secret offshore account, who bought a watch that cost more than his annual salary, he was telling the truth. I can't, Kate, I typed. I already gave it to NCIS. A lie, but a necessary one. The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I put the phone down, my chest aching. The sister I'd known, the one who defended me from bullies, who'd held my hair back when I was sick, who'd slept in a chair in my hospital room for 2 weeks. That sister was gone, replaced by Jack's wife, Jack's defender. Maybe she'd always been that person, and I just hadn't seen it. Maybe we all become what we need to become to survive. The night passed in fits and starts. At some point, I must have slept, because I woke to dawn light filtering through the blinds and the smell of coffee brewing. Agent Chen was in the kitchen with Laura, both of them looking tired. Morning, Chen said. Powell's still outside. The SUV didn't come back. Any word on who it was? Not yet. Plates were obscured. Vehicle was reported stolen this afternoon from a mall parking lot in Virginia Beach. So they were professionals, or at least competent amateurs. Miller wants you at 9. Chin continued. I'll drive you. What about David and Laura? They'll have protection. Powell will stay, and we'll have another team rotating in. I showered, dressed, ate toast I didn't taste. At 8:30, Chin led me out to a nondescript sedan. Powell gave a nod from his position by the street, his hand resting casually on the weapon at his hip. The drive to the NCIS field office was quiet. Chin didn't try to make conversation, for which I was grateful. My mind was racing, trying to prepare for whatever was coming. The field office was in a bland government building near Norfolk Naval Station. Through the gates, I could see ships at berth, gray hulls against gray water under a gray sky. A normal day for most people. Not for me. Inside, it was all linoleum and fluorescent lights, and the faint smell of stale coffee. Sean badged us through security, then led me to a small interview room, windowless with a table, 3 chairs, and a camera in the corner. "Miller will be right in," she said. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "Water, please." She returned with a bottle, then left me alone. I sat, my hands in my lap, trying to calm my breathing. In out, like they'd taught me in physical therapy. Like I was preparing for a marathon, not an interrogation. The door opened. Miller entered, followed by a woman I hadn't met, 40-ish, with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. "Emma, this is Assistant United States Attorney Elena Vargas," Miller said. "She's handling the prosecution." Prosecution, the word, was a bucket of cold water. "Nice to meet you," Vargas said, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm, businesslike. "Thank you for coming in." They sat across from me. Miller set a file folder on the table. Vargas produced a digital recorder. "Do you mind if we record this?" she asked. "Do I need a lawyer?" "That's entirely up to you. You're not a target of this investigation. You're a witness, possibly a victim, given the threats last night." Vargas's expression was neutral. "But if you'd be more comfortable with counsel, we can pause and arrange that." I thought about it. A lawyer would tell me to say nothing, to protect myself. But protecting myself meant protecting Jack. And I was past that now. "I don't need a lawyer," I said. Vargas nodded, clicked on the recorder, and stated the date, time, and persons present. Then she looked at me. "Tell us everything, Emma, from the beginning." So I did. I started with the watch, the receipt, the late-night phone call about Caymans, the encrypted files on Jack's computer, the flash drive, the list of payments, the contract, the threats. Miller took notes. Vargas listened, her expression giving nothing away. When I finished, Vargas asked, "The flash drive, where did you find it exactly?" "Behind my nightstand, on the floor. It was dusty, like it had been there a while." "And you're sure it wasn't yours?" "Positive. I've never seen it before." "Could it have been Michael's? From before the accident?" The question startled me. I suppose. But why would Michael have a flash drive with Jack's initials and a list of payments? "I don't know, but we have to consider all possibilities." Vargas leaned forward. "Emma, did Michael ever mention anything about Jack? About his work? About anything unusual?" "No, they got along. They were friends. Michael thought Jack was a good officer." "And after Michael died, did you notice any changes in Jack? In his spending? His behavior?" I thought about it. He was more confident, I guess. Like he'd proven something. He got promoted around that time. Bought the new car. Started talking about a bigger house. "What about your sister? Did she ever say anything? Express concerns?" "No, she was happy. Or she seemed happy." I looked down at my hands. But she was also stressed. About money. About my care. She never said it, but I could tell. Vargas and Miller exchanged a look. "The medical expenses," Miller said. "They were substantial. Over 100,000 a year, maybe more. Insurance covered some. My disability covered some. The rest," I spread my hands. "Jack paid. He said he had it covered, that we were family. And you never questioned it." Vargas asked. I was in a wheelchair, in pain, grieving. I wasn't exactly auditing the family finances. The words came out sharper than I intended. Vargas held up a hand. "I'm not accusing you of anything, Emma. I'm trying to establish motive. If Jack was under financial pressure, if he felt responsible for your care, that might explain why he'd take risks he otherwise wouldn't. It doesn't excuse it. No, it doesn't." Vargas clicked off the recorder. "Off the record, Emma, what do you think? Is Jack capable of this?" The question hung in the air. I thought about the man who'd carried me upstairs, who'd sat with me through nightmares, who'd teased me about my terrible taste in movies. Then I thought about the man who'd lied about the watch, who'd had a secret account, who'd asked me to destroy evidence. "I don't know," I whispered. I thought I knew him. But now, I don't know anything. Miller's phone buzzed. He looked at it, his expression tightening. We need to go. Now. What is it? Vargas asked. The flash drive. Our text cracked the encryption. He looked at me, his face grim. It's worse than we thought. How worse? I asked. The payments aren't just for one contract. They're for 7, over 2 years. Total just over $2 million. He stood gathering his files. And it's not just Jack. There are 3 other names on that list. All Navy. All procurement. Vargas was on her feet too. Who? I'll tell you in the car. Emma, you're with us. Where are we going? To get a warrant, and then to your sister's house. He met my eyes. We're bringing Jack in, and we're searching the place top to bottom. The ride to the federal courthouse was a blur. Miller and Vargas talked in low voices in the front seat. Their words a confusing jumble of legal terms and names I didn't recognize. I sat in the back watching Norfolk pass by the strip malls, the fast food restaurants, the ordinary people living ordinary lives. At the courthouse, Vargas disappeared inside while Miller and I waited in the car. You okay? He asked after a while. No. Fair enough. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. The other names on the list. You recognize any of them? Mark Davies? Robert Chenoweth? James O'Connell? Mark Davies, Jack's friend. The best man. The one who'd texted me. Mark's a friend. The others. I think I've met them. At parties. Cookouts. That kind of thing. All procurement officers, all in a position to influence contracts. Miller shook his head. This is big, Emma. Bigger than I thought. And it explains the threats last night. This isn't just about Jack getting caught. This is about an entire network being exposed. What happens now? Now we bring them in, question them, see who flips first. He looked at me. Your sister. How much do you think she knows? The question I'd been asking myself. I don't know. She's not a details person. Jack handles the money, the bills. She just spends it. Ignorance isn't a defense. If she benefited from the proceeds of a crime, she can be charged as an accessory. She didn't know, I said, but even to my own ears it sounded weak. Maybe not at first, but after a while. After the watch? The cars? The vacations? He shook his head. People see what they want to see, Emma. They ignore what they don't want to know. Vargas returned, holding a folded document. Got it. Let's go. Back in the car, heading toward Virginia Beach, toward my sister's house, toward whatever came next. My phone buzzed. Kate again. Where are you? We need to talk. I showed the text to Miller. Don't respond, he said. Not yet. What if she's in danger? We're about 5 minutes away. She'll be fine. But she wasn't fine. As we turned onto their street, I could see the news vans. 3 of them, parked haphazardly, satellite antennas extended. Reporters with cameras clustering around the front yard. Damn it, Miller muttered. Who tipped them off? Jack's lawyer. Vargas suggested. Tried to control the narrative. Or someone else, trying to create chaos. Miller pulled up behind an NCIS sedan already parked at the curb. 2 agents were keeping the reporters at bay. As we got out, the cameras swung toward us. Shouted questions filled the air. Agent Miller, is Lieutenant Commander Sullivan being arrested? Emma, are you the whistleblower? Is it true the investigation involves multiple officers? Miller ignored them, pushing through with Vargas on one side and me on the other. We reached the front door, where another agent stood guard. They're inside, the agent said. Sullivan, his lawyer, and Mrs. Sullivan. They've been told about the warrant. Miller nodded, then looked at me. You ready? No, I would never be ready for this. But I nodded anyway. He opened the door. The scene inside was chaos. Kate stood in the living room, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. Jack sat on the couch, still in uniform, his lawyer, a man in an expensive suit beside him. 2 more NCIS agents were there, along with a woman in a pantsuit who I assumed was from the U.S. Attorney's office. Emma. Kate's voice was a broken thing. What have you done? Before I could answer, Jack stood. This is harassment. You have no right. We have a warrant, Commander, Miller said, holding up the document. For the house, your vehicles, your office. Your financial records. He looked at Jack's lawyer. Your client can either cooperate, or we can do this the hard way. The lawyer, a silver-haired man with the weary expression of someone who'd done this too many times, put a hand on Jack's arm. Let them do their job, Jack. Don't give them anything else to use against you. Use against me? Jack's laugh was bitter. They're manufacturing evidence, planting it. First the flash drive, now this. He pointed at me. And she's helping them, after everything we've done for her. The flash drive was in her room, Jack, Miller said calmly. How do you explain that? I can't. Maybe she put it there. Maybe she's setting me up. All eyes turned to me. Kate's were wide with hurt and confusion. Jack's were blazing with fury. The lawyers were calculating. The agents were watchful. I didn't, I whispered. I found it. Convenient, Jack spat. Just like it's convenient that you found the watch receipt, and overheard a phone call, and stumbled upon bank statements. He took a step toward me. What did they offer you, Emma? Immunity? Money? What's your price for betraying your family? That's enough, Miller said, moving between us. Commander Sullivan, you need to come with us. Now, am I under arrest? Not yet, but you're being detained for questioning. And based on what we find here, he left the threat hanging. Jack looked at Kate. Don't let them search. Make them get a specific warrant for specific items. Kate looked from Jack to me to Miller. Her face was a mask of agony. Jack, maybe we should just cooperate. If you didn't do anything. I didn't, but that doesn't matter. They've already decided I'm guilty. He turned to his lawyer. Tell her. The lawyer sighed. Kate, Jack's right. The warrant is broad, but we can challenge specific searches. Make them articulate exactly what they're looking for and where they expect to find it. While they argued, another team of agents arrived, 4 of them, wearing gloves and carrying evidence kits. They moved through the house with quiet efficiency, starting in the study. Kate watched them, her hand over her mouth. Jack, what are they going to find? Nothing, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. Miller motioned to one of the agents. Take him. No. Kate stepped forward, but Jack's lawyer held her back. It's okay, Kate, Jack said, his voice suddenly calm. Resigned. I'll go. I'll answer their questions. It'll be fine. He kissed her forehead. Call Mark. He'll know what to do. Mark Davies, his name on the list. As Jack was led out, not in handcuffs, but with an agent on either side, he looked at me. Not with anger this time, with something worse. Pity. You think you're doing the right thing, he said quietly, but you're just a pawn, Emma. And when this is over, they'll discard you, and you'll have no one. Then he was gone, out the door, into the blinding flash of camera lights. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The only sounds were the methodical movements of the agents searching the house, and Kate's quiet sobs. Then Miller turned to me. We need to search your room too. The warrant covers the entire house. I nodded, numb. Okay. As I led him down the hallway, I could feel Kate's eyes on my back. Hurt, betrayed, abandoned. My room was as I'd left it, bed unmade, closet open for my hurried packing, wheelchair by the window. It felt like a stranger's room now, like a museum exhibit of a life that no longer existed. The agents moved in methodical and thorough. They checked under the bed, in the closet, in the drawers I'd emptied. One agent, a young woman with careful hands, examined the nightstand where I'd found the flash drive. Dust patterns consistent with something being knocked behind here recently, she said, more to herself than to anyone. No significant accumulation. Miller nodded. Bag, the nightstand, the bed frame too. Check for hiding places. You won't find anything, Kate said from the doorway. She'd followed us, leaning against the frame as if she couldn't stand on her own. Because there's nothing to find. This is a witch hunt. You're destroying an innocent man's life because my sister has an overactive imagination. Kate, I started. Don't. She held up a hand. Just don't. The female agent moved to the wheelchair, examining it carefully. As she tilted it back, something fell out, a small, flat object that clattered on the hardwood floor. She picked it up. Another flash drive. Miller took it, holding it up to the light. It was identical to the first, black, generic, unmarked. Where did that come from? Kate demanded. Did you plant that? Did you? It was in the wheelchair, the agent said calmly, in a compartment under the seat. I stared at it. There's no compartment under my seat. There is now. The agent showed me a small, nearly invisible seam in the upholstery. With a precise movement, she popped it open. It's aftermarket, recently installed. Miller looked at me. Did you know about this? No, I've never seen it before. Convenient, Kate muttered. Miller handed the flash drive to another agent. Get this to the techs. Now. Then he looked at Kate. When was the last time someone other than Emma used this wheelchair? What? I don't know. It's her chair. But others have access to it. Maintenance, repair people, family. Understanding dawned on Kate's face. Slow and terrible. You think Jack. I think someone put a flash drive in your sister's wheelchair, and I think it wasn't your sister. Miller's voice was gentle but firm. When was it last serviced? A month ago. The motor was acting up. We had a company come. Coastal Medical Supplies. Her hand went to her mouth. Jack arranged it. He said he knew someone. Miller was already on his phone. I need a team at Coastal Medical Supplies. Now. And pull everything you have on the company. Owners. Employees. Contracts. He hung up, looked at Kate. You need to think very carefully. Has Jack been different lately? Nervous? Spending more? Receiving packages or visitors at odd hours? Kate shook her head, but the motion was weak, unconvincing. He's been working late. A lot. He said it was because of upcoming promotions, because he wanted to provide. Her voice trailed off. She looked at me, her eyes wide with dawning horror. The vacation to St. Bart's last year. He said he won it in a raffle at the officers' club. Did you see the raffle ticket? Miller asked. No. He just came home and said we were going. She sank onto the edge of my bed, as if her legs could no longer support her. The new car. He said it was a lease. A good deal because of his Navy discount. And you never questioned it. Why would I question it? Her voice broke. He's my husband. I trusted him. The female agent emerged from the closet, holding something. Found this. Taped to the back of the drawer. It was a small notebook, leather-bound, expensive. Miller took it, flipped it open. His expression didn't change, but his shoulders tensed. Initials, numbers, dates, going back 3 years. He looked at Kate. This is Jack's handwriting. She took the notebook, her hands shaking, flipped through pages, nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, it's his meeting notebook. He takes it to work. These aren't meeting notes, Kate. Miller's voice was gentle. These are records of payments, deliveries, contacts. He showed her a page. Do you recognize any of these names? She looked, shook her head, then stopped, pointed. That's Mark Davies, Jack's friend. Anyone else? She kept flipping, stopped again. Her face went pale. Admiral Reynolds. He came to dinner last month. He's Jack's commanding officer. The room went very quiet. Admiral James Reynolds. Miller asked, his voice carefully neutral. Kate nodded, unable to speak. Miller looked at the agent. Get the director on the phone. Now. Then to Kate. You need to come with us, right now. Why? I haven't done anything. Because if Admiral Reynolds is involved, then you're not safe here. None of us are. He held out a hand. Please, Kate, for your own protection. She looked at the notebook, at the damning evidence in her husband's own handwriting, then at me. Did you know? She whispered. Did you know it was this big? No, I said honestly. I thought it was just Jack. I thought if I turned him in, it would stop with him. A bitter laugh escaped her. Nothing ever stops with Jack. He always has to go bigger, better. She looked at Miller. What happens now? Now we take you somewhere safe. We ask you questions, and you help us unravel this. He paused. It's your choice, Kate. You can help us, or you can protect him. She looked at the notebook again, at the names, the numbers, the years of lies. Then she stood, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. What do you need me to do? As Miller let her out, he looked back at me. You too, Emma. You're not safe here either. Where are we going? Somewhere no one will think to look for you. He glanced at the agents, still searching the room. Pack what you need. You're not coming back here for a while. I looked around the room, my room for 2 years, my sanctuary, my prison. Then I packed a bag. Not much, just the essentials, and the photo of Michael. As I wheeled myself out, I took one last look. The agents were still working, methodical and thorough. They would take everything, every paper, every device, every memory. Kate was already in the car, her head in her hands. I transferred into the back seat beside her, my wheelchair folded and stowed in the trunk. We didn't speak as we drove away, past the reporters, past the neighbors watching from their windows, past the life we'd known. After a while, Kate said the first time was our anniversary. 4 years ago, he bought me diamond earrings. I asked how he could afford them. He said he'd gotten a bonus, a big one. I waited. The second time was a year later. A boat, a little sailboat. He said he'd always wanted one. She looked out the window. I should have known. Navy bonuses aren't that big. Not for lieutenant commanders. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to believe him. Her voice was hollow. Because I wanted the earrings, the boat, the vacations. Because after Mom and Dad died, after your accident, everything was so hard. And then suddenly it wasn't. Suddenly we had money. We had fun. We were happy. She turned to look at me, her eyes full of tears. I knew, Emma. Somewhere deep down I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. The confession hung between us, heavy and sad. What happens now? She whispered. I don't know. Miller glanced at us in the rearview mirror. Now we follow the money. We follow the evidence. And we see where it leads. To Admiral Reynolds? I asked. Maybe higher, maybe lower. He met my eyes in the mirror. But one thing's for sure. You kicked over a rock, Emma. And now we get to see what crawls out. The car sped on, taking us away from everything we knew, towards something unknown, something dangerous. And as I watched the familiar streets fade into unfamiliar ones, I realized Jack was right about one thing. I was a pawn, but so was he. So was Kate. So was everyone. The question was, who was moving us? And what game are we playing? Safe house, location classified. Time lost meaning in the safe house. There were no windows in the room they'd given me. Just pale blue walls, a hospital bed that hummed when I adjusted it, and a heavy steel door that locked from the outside. They'd taken my phone, my laptop, anything that could be tracked. The only clock was a digital display on the cable box. Its red numbers the only color in the gray room. 4:18 a.m. or maybe 4:19. It didn't matter. Somewhere in this anonymous building, a converted motel on a forgotten stretch of highway, Miller had said, Kate was in another room. We hadn't spoken since they'd separated us upon arrival. Protocol, Agent Chen had explained, not unkindly. We need independent statements, and it's safer this way. Safer. The word had lost all meaning. A soft knock at the door, then the click of the lock. Agent Powell entered, holding 2 foam cups. Coffee. Black, right? I nodded, taking the cup. The coffee was bitter and too hot. Real. A sensation in a world that had stopped feeling real. Miller's on his way, Powell said, pulling up the room's only chair. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes. We've been going through the notebook. And the second flash drive. What was on it? Same as the first. More payments. More contracts. But this one had something new. He sipped his coffee, watching me over the rim. Bank account numbers. In Switzerland, Belize, the UAE, and communications. Encrypted, but our texts are good. How much? Total. He set his cup down. Over the last 4 years, we're tracking about $8 million moving through various accounts connected to Sullivan, Davies, Chenoweth, and O'Connell, and Admiral Reynolds. $8 million. The number was so large it was meaningless. Just digits on a screen. But I knew what it meant. That money came from somewhere. From inflated contracts. From kickbacks. From defense. Contractors paying for preferential treatment. And sailors got equipment that might fail. Ships got parts that might not work. People could die. The Admiral, I said. Is he? In custody as of 2 hours ago. Powell's smile was thin, satisfied. NCIS and the Pentagon's Criminal Investigative Service hit his quarters at the naval station, found $50,000 in cash in a gym bag, and a ledger that makes Jack's notebook look like a grocery list. So Jack was right about one thing. It wasn't just him. He was a small fish in a very dirty pond. What about Mark Davies? The others? Davies was picked up trying to board a flight to Mexico City. Had a suitcase with $200,000 in it. He's talking, trying to cut a deal. Powell's expression turned grim. Chenoweth and O'Connell are still out there. We have alerts at all ports, airports, but they might run, or they might try to clean house. You met my eyes. The people who came to Laura and David's house? We traced the stolen SUV to a chop shop in Newport News. The owner says he was paid $5,000 in cash by a guy he'd never seen before. White, middle-aged, military haircut. Could be anyone. They were trying to kill me, or scare you, or retrieve evidence. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. The intent was hostile, and now that we've arrested Reynolds, the remaining players will be desperate. The door opened again. Miller entered, followed by AUSA Vargas. Both looked like they'd been up all night, but there was a tight energy about them, the focused intensity of hunters closing in. Emma, Miller said, pulling up the room's other chair. We need to talk about the notebook. I've never seen it before. I know, but Kate has, and she's been illuminating. He opened a file folder, showed me photocopied pages. Jack's neat handwriting filled the pages. Dates, initials, numbers, and in the margins, tiny sketches. A boat, a plane, a house. The sketches, Miller said. Kate says they're places Jack wanted. A sailboat he bought that 2 years ago. A plane, he got his pilot's license and joined a flying club. The house, he flipped to a later page, showing a detailed sketch of a waterfront property. That's a $3 million lot in the Outer Banks. He put a deposit on it 6 months ago. I stared at the sketch. The Jack I knew talked about fishing trips, about backyard barbecues, not about waterfront estates. The notebook has symbols too, Vargas said, pointing to small marks next to some entries. A star, a triangle, a circle with a line through it. Kate says she doesn't know what they mean, but you're good with patterns. You were a therapist. You observe people, their movements, their tells. Look at these. She spread out several pages. I studied them, my therapist's brain engaging despite the fear, the exhaustion. The symbols weren't random. The star appeared next to larger payments, the triangle next to deliveries or meetings, the circle with a line. Rejections, I said slowly, or refusals. Look, the circle appears next to initials, then is crossed out. Someone said no, or backed out. Miller and Vargas exchanged a look. That's what we thought, Miller said, and we think we know who. Look at this page. He showed me an entry from about a year ago. M. Carter. $50K heavy large circle. Michael. My Michael. He approached Michael, I whispered, the room tilting around me. He tried to bring Michael in, and Michael said no. And 2 weeks later, Vargas said quietly, Michael was dead. The world went silent. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the faint traffic noise from the highway outside, my own breathing, all of it faded to a distant buzz. No, I said. The accident, it was a truck, a blown tire. The investigation was conducted by the Virginia State Police, Miller finished, and it was ruled an accident. But the truck driver? He worked for a company that had just lost a Navy contract. A contract that went to a company called Sentinel Technologies, the same company that's listed in Jack's notebook, the one that paid the $300,000 consulting fee. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room was too small, the walls too close. You think Jack killed Michael. We think, Vargas said carefully, that Michael's refusal to participate in the scheme made him a liability, and that his death, while possibly arranged to look like an accident, removed that liability. She placed a hand on mine. I'm sorry, Emma. We're reopening the investigation. Full forensic review. Everything. The coffee rose bitter in my throat. I pushed the cup away, my hands trembling violently. Does Kate know? Not yet, and we'd like to keep it that way for now, until we have more evidence. Miller's voice was gentle. But this changes things, Emma. This isn't just corruption anymore. It's conspiracy, possibly murder. What do you need from me? Everything you remember about that time, about Michael and Jack's relationship. Hay arguments, any tension, anything that seemed off. I closed my eyes, trying to remember through the fog of grief. The last months of Michael's life had been a blur of wedding planning and work. He'd been busy with a case, a procurement fraud investigation, ironically. He'd been stressed, working late, and Jack had been around more than usual, stopping by our apartment, bringing pizza, talking to Michael in low voices in the kitchen. I'd thought they were bonding, becoming real brothers. They argued, I said, the memory surfacing like something from a dream. A week before the accident, I came home early from work. They were in the living room. Jack was angry. He said, "You're going to ruin everything." Michael said, "I'm going to do my job." Then they saw me and stopped. Did they say what it was about? Miller asked, leaning forward. No. Michael said it was work stuff, classified. I didn't push. A sob caught in my throat. I should have pushed. I should have asked. I should have. You couldn't have known, Vargas said firmly. Don't do that to yourself. But I was already doing it, rewriting every memory, every interaction. Jack's kindness after Michael's death, was it guilt? His insistence I move in with them, was it control? The way he paid for everything, was it blood money? There's more, Miller said. The second flash drive, from your wheelchair. It had something the first one didn't. A list of names, civilian names, contractors, middlemen, and one name that concerns us. He showed me a printout, a list of a dozen names. Most meant nothing. Then, near the bottom, Dr. Evan Ross, my physical therapist, the one who came 3 times a week, the one Jack had recommended, the one whose bills were always paid on time in cash. He's part of it. The betrayal was a physical pain, sharp under my ribs. We think he's how they planted the second flash drive. During a therapy session, he had access to your chair, to you. Miller's jaw tightened. We picked him up an hour ago. He's not talking yet, but he will. A knock at the door. Chen leaned in. Miller, we have a situation. O'Connell's wife just called. He didn't come home last night, and his service weapon is missing from his locker. Miller was on his feet. Put everyone on alert, and get a team to the wife. Now. He looked at Vargas. He's the only one left. Chenoweth's in the wind, but O'Connell, he's a hothead, and he knows he's exposed. Vargas stood too, gathering her files. Emma, I need you to stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. Not even agents you recognize unless they give you the code word. What code word? You'll know it if you hear it. She headed for the door, then paused. And Emma, however this ends, you did the right thing. Remember that. They left, locking the door behind them. The red numbers on the cable box glowed. 5:07 a.m. I was alone again, with my thoughts, with the knowledge that the man I'd called brother might have killed the man I loved, that the people who were supposed to help me had been using me, that the life I'd lived for 2 years was a beautiful, gilded cage. The tears came then, ugly, wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. For Michael, for Kate, for the people I'd thought they were, for the people they actually were. I don't know how long I cried. Long enough for the red numbers to read 5:42. Long enough for my head to pound and my throat to feel raw. Then the lights went out. Not just in my room. The cable box went dark. The faint hum of the air conditioning stopped. The only light was a thin strip under the door, and a moment later, that too vanished as the emergency lights in the hallway clicked off. Silence, deep and complete. Then a new sound, the soft hiss of the door's electronic lock disengaging. Not with a click, with a sigh like it had been released. The door opened. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, backlit by the dim emergency lights that had just flickered on in the hallway. Not Miller, not Powell, Dyer, Broder, Emma Carter. A man's voice, low, calm. My name is James O'Connell. I think we need to talk. He stepped into the room. In the faint green glow of the emergency lights, I could see he was in civilian clothes, dark pants, a jacket, and in his hand, held loosely at his side, was a pistol. Don't scream, he said, his voice almost conversational. There's no one to hear you. The agents on duty are taking a nap, and the comms are down. We have about 3 minutes before backup arrives. So let's make this quick. My mouth was dry, my heart hammered against my ribs. What do you want? The same thing everyone wants, to survive. He moved closer, his eyes scanning the room. You've caused a lot of trouble, Emma. A lot of good people are going to prison because of you. Good people with families, with lives. They're criminals. They're pragmatists. He stopped a few feet from the bed, just out of reach. The system is broken, Emma. The procurement process is a joke. We just streamlined it, took a little off the top. Everyone wins. The contractors get their business. The Navy gets its equipment. We get compensated for our expertise. And Michael, did he win? O'Connell's expression didn't change. Michael was a good officer, but he was rigid, unwilling to adapt. This life, it's about adaptation, survival of the fittest. You killed him. I didn't, but I know who did. And I'm willing to tell you, in exchange for something. My mind raced. Stall. Keep him talking. What? Your silence. You recant. You tell the prosecutors you made it all up. That you were jealous of your sister's marriage. That you planted the evidence. That it was all a lie. I almost laughed. The sound came out as a choked sob. And you think they'd believe that? With enough pressure? Yes. Your sister will back you up. She'll say whatever we tell her to say. And you're a grieving, disabled woman. Unstable. Prone to fantasies. It's believable. And if I refuse? He raised the pistol, just slightly, not pointing it at me, just showing it. Then you have an accident. Like Michael. Tragic, but understandable. A woman in your condition. Despondent over the trouble she's caused her family. It wouldn't be surprising. The cold certainty in his voice was worse than any shout. This wasn't a threat. It was a plan, a contingency, one he was fully prepared to execute. The building is full of federal agents, I whispered, who are currently dealing with a fire alarm in the East Wing, and a reported gas leak, and a dozen other distractions. He checked his watch. We have 90 seconds. Your choice, Emma. Walk away, live, or be a martyr, like Michael. My eyes darted around the room. The bed, the chair, the wheelchair folded in the corner. No weapons, nothing but me. And then I remembered. The bed, the hospital bed with its controls. I need to think, I said, stalling. You have 60 seconds. My hand crept slowly toward the bed controls, hidden under the rail on the right side. I knew them by touch. Head up, head down, knee up, knee down, and the emergency release. A red button that dropped the entire bed flat in case of cardiac arrest. What about Kate? I asked, my fingers finding the buttons. You'll leave her alone? If you cooperate, Kate goes free. She knew nothing. She's just a wife. A victim. His smile was thin. We're not monsters, Emma. We're businessmen. 30 seconds. My thumb found the emergency release. But I needed him closer. I needed him within range. And Jack? I asked, what happens to him? Jack talks. He cuts a deal. He does a few years in a minimum security prison. Comes out. Lives his life. O'Connell took a step closer. It's the best possible outcome, Emma. Everyone lives. Everyone moves on. 10 seconds. Okay, I whispered, letting my shoulders slump in feigned defeat. Okay, I'll do it. He lowered the gun slightly. Smart girl. Now, I slammed the emergency release and simultaneously hit the head-up button. The bed jerked violently, the whole frame dropping flat while the head section rose abruptly. The movement was sudden, jarring. O'Connell stumbled back, startled. It wasn't much, just a second of distraction, but it was enough. I threw myself sideways, out of the bed, hitting the floor with a painful thud. My legs were dead weight, but my arms were strong from 2 years of wheeling myself around. I scrambled, crab-like, toward the wheelchair. Damn it! O'Connell recovered, raising the gun. My hand closed on the wheelchair, not to get in, to use as a weapon. I swung it, the heavy metal frame connecting with his shins. He grunted in pain, stumbling again. The gun went off, a deafening crack in the small room. Plaster, dust rained from the ceiling. The door burst open. Miller, Powell, and 2 other agents flooded in, weapons drawn. NCIS. Drop it. Now. O'Connell spun, firing wildly. Another shot. Then another. The agents returned fire. 3 shots. 4. O'Connell jerked, a red flower blooming on his chest. He looked down, surprised. Then his legs buckled and he collapsed. Silence. Then shouts. Orders. Someone calling for a medic. Miller was at my side, his hands checking me for injuries. Emma, are you hit? I shook my head, unable to speak. My ears rang from the gunshots. My whole body trembled. Powell knelt by O'Connell, checked for a pulse, shook his head. He's gone. Get a team in here. Secure the scene. Miller helped me back onto the bed, his hands gentle. How did he get in? He said the agents were down. Comms were out. My voice sounded thin, reedy. Miller spoke into his radio. All teams report. Now. He listened, his face hardening. We have 2 agents down in the west hallway. Non-fatal. And the comms tower's been disabled. Someone cut the lines. He looked at O'Connell's body, then at me. He wasn't working alone. He had help. Inside, the room filled with people. Agents, medics, technicians. Someone draped a blanket over my shoulders. Someone else tried to take my blood pressure. I pushed them away, my eyes on O'Connell's body, on the blood, spreading across the cheap motel carpet. He said he'd tell me who killed Michael, I whispered, if I recanted. Miller's hand tightened on my shoulder. He was lying, Emma, trying to manipulate you. Was he? I looked up at him, or was he telling the truth? Do you know? Do you know who really killed Michael? Before he could answer, Chin appeared in the doorway. Miller, we have Chenoweth. Picked him up, trying to cross into Canada. He's talking, and you're not going to believe what he's saying. Miller stood. Emma, I need you to stay with Powell. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. You understand. I nodded, numb. He followed Chin out, leaving me with Powell and the buzzing chaos of the room. The medics were working on the 2 downed agents now, getting them on gurneys. The techs were bagging O'Connell's gun, his phone, his wallet, and I sat on the edge of the bed, the blanket around my shoulders, watching the red stain on the carpet grow. I'd just seen a man die. I'd caused it, indirectly maybe, but if I hadn't hit the emergency release, if I hadn't fought back, would I be the one on the floor? The thought should have horrified me, should have sent me into shock, but all I felt was a cold, clear certainty. This wasn't over, not even close. 2 hours later, they moved me to a new room, a different motel farther from the highway. This one had windows, though the blinds were drawn tight. Morning light filtered through, painting the room in stripes of gray and gold. Miller returned, looking older than he had just hours before. He carried a file folder thick with papers. Chenoweth is singing like a bird, he said without preamble, dropping into a chair. He's naming names, giving dates, providing evidence. He wants witness protection, a new identity, the works. And in exchange, he gives us the whole network, not just Navy, contractors, politicians, a congressman from Virginia who sits on the Armed Services Committee, a deputy assistant secretary of defense, and a senior partner at one of the biggest defense contracting firms in the country. Miller rubbed his eyes. This goes all the way to the top, Emma. Higher than we imagined. What about Michael? He opened the folder, pulled out a photograph, a security camera still, grainy but clear enough. A man in coveralls, wearing a baseball cap, talking to a truck driver. The timestamp was 3 days before Michael's accident. The truck driver, Miller said, he was paid $10,000 to have brake failure on a specific stretch of road at a specific time. He thought it was insurance fraud, that the target was the truck, not the other car. He didn't know about Michael, didn't know he was killing someone. Who paid him? The man in the coveralls. We identified him, former Marine. Works as security for Sentinel Technologies, the defense contractor. Miller looked at me. Chenoweth says the order came from the top, from the CEO, who was playing golf with Admiral Reynolds the weekend before. The pieces clicked into place, forming a picture so ugly I wanted to look away. Michael had been investigating procurement fraud. He'd gotten close, too close, and they'd killed him for it. And Jack? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Did he know? Miller hesitated. Chenoweth says no. Says Jack was kept in the dark about that part. That he was told it was an accident. That he believed it. Do you believe that? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Accessory after the fact. Obstruction. Conspiracy. He's going away for a long time, Emma. They all are. There was a knock. Powell leaned in. Kate's asking to see her. She's not doing well. Miller looked at me. Do you want to see her? Did I? The sister who'd chosen her criminal husband over me, who'd threatened to push me down the stairs, who'd lived in blissful ignorance, while the man she loved might have been involved in my fiancé's murder. Yes, I said. They brought her to my room. She looked shattered. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale. She wore sweatpants and a t-shirt that wasn't hers. She stopped in the doorway, staring at me as if I were a stranger. They told me what happened, she whispered. With O'Connell. Are you? I'm fine. A lie. We both knew it. She came in, sat on the edge of the other bed. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. I'm sorry, she said finally, the words ripped from somewhere deep. For everything. For not believing you. For what I said. For what I did. You tried to push me down the stairs, Kate. She flinched. I know. And I'll never forgive myself for that. I was scared, angry. I felt like my whole world was falling apart, and I needed someone to blame. She looked at me, tears filling her eyes. But that's no excuse. There is no excuse. I wanted to hate her, wanted to rage at her, but all I felt was tired. So tired. Did you know? I asked. About any of it? The money? The bribes? She shook her head. Not really. I saw things, heard things, but I didn't want to know. So I didn't ask. I just enjoyed the life. A bitter laugh escaped her. The house, the cars, the vacations. I thought we'd earned it. I thought Jack was just that good. And Michael. The name hung between us, heavy with all the things unsaid. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. If I'd known, if I'd even suspected, I would have left him, Emma. I would have turned him in myself. You have to believe that. Did I? I looked at my sister, the woman who'd raised me after our parents died, the woman who'd sat by my hospital bed for weeks, the woman who'd brushed my hair and read to me and promised me everything would be okay. I believe you, I said, and I did. Kate was many things, vain, sometimes selfish, often blind. But she wasn't cruel, and she wasn't a killer. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. What happens now? She asked. Now we testify. We help them put everyone away. And then we try to build new lives. Together. The hope in her voice was a fragile thing. I looked at our joined hands, at the scar on my wrist from the accident, at the wedding band she still wore. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe. In time. She nodded, accepting that. It was more than she deserved. More than I would have given her yesterday. The lawyer says Jack's going to plead guilty, she said, her voice flat. To everything. Conspiracy. Bribery. Tax evasion. He's cooperating. Giving them names. He wants a deal. Will he get one? Probably. A shorter sentence. Maybe 10 years instead of 30. She looked at me. Is that justice? For what he did. For what they all did. I don't know what justice is anymore, I admitted, but it's something. It's not nothing. Miller returned, clearing his throat. Kate, we need you back. More questions. She stood, squeezing my hand once before letting go. I'll see you later. Yeah. She left. Miller stayed, watching me. You did good, Emma, he said after a moment. You stood up to him. You stayed alive. I got lucky, maybe, but you also got smart. He sat, leaning forward. I have a proposition for you. Vargas and I have been talking. This case, it's going to be the biggest prosecution of military corruption in decades. And it's because of you. Because you saw something and said something. I waited. When this is over, we could use someone like you at NCIS. As a consultant, you have a unique perspective. You understand the medical side, the family dynamics, the moral calculus. He smiled faintly. And you're brave. Stupid brave, maybe. but brave. The offer was so unexpected I couldn't process it. I'm a physical therapist. Or I was. You're a whistleblower, a survivor, and you have a keen eye for detail. He stood. Think about it. No pressure, but the offer's there. He headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Chenoweth gave us a name. The man in the coveralls. The one who paid the truck driver. We picked him up an hour ago. He's already talking. Wants to deal. My breath caught, and he says the order came from the CEO of Sentinel directly. We're arresting him now. Miller's smile was cold, satisfied. It's over, Emma. The whole rotten tree is coming down. He left. I sat in the quiet room. The morning sun, now, bright behind the blinds. It wasn't over. Not really. There would be trials, testimony, years of legal proceedings. And after that, what? A life in pieces. A sister I didn't know how to love anymore. A future I couldn't imagine. But it was a start. I wheeled myself to the window, pulled back the blind just enough to look out. The motel parking lot was full of government vehicles. Agents moved with purpose. Miller was right. They were wrapping it up, taking down the whole network. And I had started it with a phone call about a watch. My phone buzzed, a burner phone Miller had given me, a text from an unknown number. But I knew who it was. I heard what happened. Are you really okay? Laura. I typed back, I'm alive. That's something. David wants to know when you're coming home. Home? Where was that now? Not Kate's house. Not Laura's guest room. Maybe nowhere. Maybe I had to build a new one. Soon, he typed. Tell him soon. I put the phone down, looked at my reflection in the window glass. Pale, tired, dark circles under my eyes, but alive, breathing, thinking. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt something besides pain or grief or fear. I felt clean. 3 days later, U.S. District Court, Norfolk, Virginia ****. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the back rows. Sketch artists worked in the aisles. Federal marshals stood at every door. I sat at the prosecution table in my wheelchair with Vargas on one side and Miller on the other. Across the aisle, Jack sat with his lawyer. He wore a suit, not his uniform. His hands were cuffed in his lap. He didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone. Kate sat in the front row of the gallery behind me. Laura and David were beside her, a united front, for today at least. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Eleanor Rodriguez entered, black robe sweeping. She was known as the Iron Lady of the Eastern District. Tough, no-nonsense, and fiercely intelligent. She took the bench, adjusted her glasses, and looked at the packed courtroom. This is a sentencing hearing in the case of United States versus Jack Sullivan, she said, her voice carrying without need for amplification. The defendant has pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit bribery, 3 counts of bribery, 2 counts of tax evasion, and 1 count of obstruction of justice. Is that correct? Jack's lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. And the government has agreed, in exchange for the defendant's substantial cooperation, to recommend a sentence at the low end of the guidelines. Is that correct? Vargas stood. Yes, Your Honor. The defendant's cooperation has been crucial in uncovering a widespread corruption network involving multiple military officers, defense contractors, and at least 1 member of Congress. His information has led to 8 additional indictments, with more expected. The judge looked at Jack. Mr. Sullivan, you have the right to make a statement before I impose sentence. Jack stood, his cuffed hands in front of him. He looked smaller than I remembered, diminished. The confident officer was gone. In his place was just a man facing the consequences of his choices. Your Honor, he began, his voice steady but soft. I have no excuses for what I did. I betrayed my uniform, my oath, my country. I betrayed my family, my wife, my sister-in-law. He paused, swallowing. I told myself I was doing it for them, to provide, to take care of them. But that was a lie. I did it for me, for the money, for the things, for the feeling of being important, powerful. He looked at me then, really looked at me. His eyes were full of regret, and something else, maybe understanding. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything, for lying, for putting you in danger, for not being the man you thought I was. He turned to Kate. "And I'm sorry, Kate, for dragging you into this, for making you an accomplice to my crimes. You deserved better. You both did." He sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Rodriguez adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Sullivan, you wore the uniform of a United States naval officer. You took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, and you betrayed that oath. For money, for greed. You corrupted the procurement process. You jeopardized the safety of our sailors, and you contributed to a culture of corruption that undermines the very foundation of our military." She leaned forward. "But you also did something rare. You admitted your guilt. You cooperated fully. You helped unravel a network that might otherwise have continued operating for years. And for that, I will take the government's recommendation into account." She took a breath. "Jack Sullivan, I sentence you to 120 months in federal prison, 10 years, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will pay restitution in the amount of $2,300,000, and you will forfeit all assets obtained through your illegal activities. 10 years, a decade. He'd be in his mid-40s when he got out. His career over. His life changed forever. The marshals led him away. He didn't look back. After, in the hallway, Kate found me. She'd been crying, but her face was set, determined. "I'm filing for divorce," she said without preamble. "Tomorrow. And I'm selling the house, the cars, everything. The government's taking most of it anyway, but what's left? I want you to have your half." "Kate, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She took my hands. "I'm moving to Richmond. Starting over. Teaching again. A small apartment. A simple life." She managed a shaky smile. "You could come, if you wanted. We could be sisters again. Try anyway." I squeezed her hands. "Maybe. Let's get through the trials first. Then we'll see." She nodded, hugged me quickly, then left, disappearing into the crowd. Miller approached, carrying a file folder. "How you holding up?" "I've been better. Yeah." He handed me the folder. "The offer stands. Consultant. Part-time. Good pay. And you'd be helping, making sure this doesn't happen again." I opened the folder. Official paperwork. A job description. A salary that would let me live independently. Have my own place. My own life. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Take your time." He smiled. "You've earned it." He walked away, leaving me in the bustling hallway. Reporters shouted questions. Lawyers hurried to their next cases. The machinery of justice ground on. I wheeled myself outside into the autumn sunlight. The air was crisp, clean. Across the street, the naval base stretched out. Ships at berth, cranes against the sky, the familiar rhythms of military life. My phone buzzed. A text from Laura. "Dinner at 6. Your favorite pot roast. Come home when you're ready." Home, not a place. The people waiting for me. I texted back, "On my way." Then I folded the job offer, put it in my bag, and wheeled myself toward the parking garage, toward whatever came next. The road was long. The healing would take time, maybe forever. But I was alive. I was free. And for now, that was enough. Note, this completes Chapter 5. The chapter delivers the confrontation with O'Connell, the revelation about Michael's murder, Jack's sentencing, and the beginning of reconciliation with Kate. It sets up the final chapter, which will cover the aftermath, the larger trials, Emma's decision about the NCIS job, and the true meaning of justice and family. The point of no return has been passed. There's no going back to the old life, only forward into something new, hopefully better. 6 months later, U.S. District Court, Norfolk, Virginia ****. The air in courtroom 700 smelled of old wood, lemon polish, and tension. I sat at the prosecution table, my wheelchair positioned to give me a clear view of the defense tables. 5 of them, each with its own client and phalanx of attorneys. The case was officially United States versus Sentinel Technologies et al., but everyone called it the Procurement 9 trial. 9 defendants, from the CEO of a billion-dollar defense contractor to a sitting United States congressman. My hands were steady in my lap. 6 months of preparation, of interviews, of rehearsed testimony, had sanded the sharp edges off my fear. What remained was a cold, clear focus. Today I would testify. Today I would look into the eyes of the man who ordered Michael's death and tell a jury what he'd done. A hand settled on my shoulder. Elena Vargas, looking every bit the warrior in a charcoal suit. Her dark hair pulled into a severe knot. Ready, as I'll ever be. She squeezed gently. Remember, it's a conversation. Just tell the truth. The jury already likes you. The wheelchair, she didn't finish the thought. We discussed it. The wheelchair made me sympathetic. My injury made me vulnerable. My testimony made me dangerous. It was an uncomfortable calculus, but Vargas was a strategist. She used every weapon she had. All rise. Judge Rodriguez entered. The same judge who had sentenced Jack. She surveyed the packed courtroom. Reporters, families, curiosity seekers, and a whole row of Navy officers in dress blues, there to witness the reckoning. Be seated, she said, her voice cutting through the murmur. Counsel, are we ready to proceed with opening statements? The United States is ready, Your Honor, Vargas said. One by one, the defense attorneys affirmed their readiness. The last to speak was Charles Whitman, counsel for Robert Garrison, CEO of Sentinel Technologies. He was a legend, with silver hair and a voice that could sell sand in the desert. He'd gotten acquittals for mob bosses, for celebrities, for a governor. Today, he was selling the idea that his client was a patriotic businessman unfairly targeted by an overzealous prosecutor. Mr. Garrison is ready to defend himself against these baseless allegations. Your Honor, Whitman said, oozing confidence. Very well. Judge Rodriguez turned to the jury. 7 men, 5 women, a cross-section of Virginia who would decide the fate of careers, companies, and lives. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to hear opening statements. These are not evidence, but roadmaps of what each side believes the evidence will show. Prosecutor. Vargas stood, smoothing her jacket. She walked to the jury box, making eye contact with each juror. Good morning. 6 months ago, a Navy lieutenant commander named Jack Sullivan stood in this courtroom and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to taking bribes. He admitted to betraying his uniform, his country, and his family, and he did it for money. She paused, letting that sink in. But this trial isn't about Jack Sullivan. This trial is about the people who gave him that money. The people who built a system of corruption so vast, so brazen, that it infected the very process that equips our men and women in uniform. This trial is about the fact that Jack Sullivan wasn't the disease. He was just a symptom. She turned and pointed to the defense tables. Robert Garrison, CEO of Sentinel Technologies. For years, his company paid bribes to naval officers to steer lucrative contracts his way. Congressman Mitchell Shaw, who sat on the House Armed Services Committee, who accepted campaign donations in exchange for pressuring the Navy to award contracts to Sentinel. Admiral James Reynolds, who not only took bribes, but helped organize the scheme. And their various lieutenants, the bagmen, the accountants, the fixers. Vargas walked back to our table, picked up a binder, and held it up. The evidence in this case will show a conspiracy of greed. It will show wire transfers, secret recordings, encrypted messages. It will show luxury vacations, cars, watches, and cash. Lots of cash, changing hands. And it will show the human cost. She placed the binder down and looked at me. My cue. I kept my face neutral, but inside my heart thumped once hard. The evidence will also show that when a young, honest JAG attorney named Michael Carter began asking questions about Sentinel's contracts, he became a problem. And Robert Garrison solved that problem. Vargas's voice dropped, becoming intimate, deadly. He ordered Michael Carter's murder, making it look like a traffic accident, all to protect his profits. All to keep the corruption flowing. A gasp went through the courtroom. One of the jurors, a middle-aged woman in the front row, put a hand to her mouth. The government will prove, Vargas concluded, that these defendants conspired to defraud the United States, to bribe public officials, and to commit murder to cover their tracks. We will ask you, at the end of this trial, to hold them accountable. Thank you. She sat. The courtroom was silent except for the rustle of notepaper and the whir of a sketch artist's pencil. Charles Whitman stood slowly, as if the weight of the injustice being perpetrated was almost too much to bear. He approached the jury with a sad, fatherly smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you have just heard is a story. A compelling one, I'll grant you. A story of villains and victims, of shadowy conspiracies and tragic murder. It's the kind of story that sells newspapers, but it is not the truth." He spread his hands. "The truth is far less dramatic and far more tragic in its own way. The truth is that Sentinel Technologies is a great American company. It employs thousands of people. It makes the communications equipment that keeps our sailors safe. Robert Garrison built that company from the ground up. He is a patriot." Whitman pointed a dismissive hand toward our table. "The government's case rests on the testimony of criminals, of Jack Sullivan, a man who already admitted to lying, to cheating, to stealing, and who will say anything to reduce his sentence, of other officers who got caught with their hands in the cookie jar and are now pointing fingers to save themselves, and of a grieving, traumatized young woman," his eyes flicked to me, "just for a second, who has been manipulated by prosecutors into seeing a conspiracy where none exists." He shook his head, the picture of regret. "There was no murder. Michael Carter's death was a tragic accident, as the original investigation found. There was no vast conspiracy. Were there some individuals who made bad choices? Perhaps, but that is a far cry from what the prosecution alleges. What you will see in this trial is a case built on suspicion, on coincidence, and on the desperate desire to blame someone, anyone, for a terrible loss." He returned to his seat. The jury looked thoughtful, conflicted, exactly as Whitman intended. Judge Rodriguez looked at the clock. "We'll take our morning recess. 15 minutes. The prosecution will call its first witness afterward." The courtroom erupted in noise as people stood, stretched, whispered. Reporters scrambled for the door to file updates. I felt a presence beside me. Kate stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee from the cart in the hallway. She'd lost weight in the last 6 months. The expensive highlights had grown out, replaced by her natural honey blonde. She wore a simple navy dress, no jewelry except our mother's pearls. She looked ordinary, real. "Here," she said, handing me a cup. "Black, right?" "Thanks." I took it. Our fingers didn't touch. We were still careful with each other, like convalescents testing a healing bone. She sat in the chair Vargas had vacated. "You okay?" "Whitman's good. He made me sound hysterical. He's doing his job. Vargas will undo it with the evidence." Kate sipped her coffee, watching the defense tables. Garrison was whispering to Whitman, smiling at something. The congressman was signing an autograph for a clerk. The sheer normalcy of it was obscene. "Jack testifies tomorrow," she said, her voice flat. "I know. He looks worse every time I see him. Thinner, older." She shook her head. "I shouldn't care, but I do. A little. He was your husband for 10 years, Kate. It's okay to care and still be glad he's in prison." She gave me a grateful look. The divorce had been finalized 2 months ago, quick and quiet. The house had sold, the proceeds going to restitution. Kate lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Richmond now, teaching 3rd grade. She'd sent me a picture of her classroom. It was cheerful, covered in children's art. "After you testify, will you have dinner with me?" she asked, not looking at me. "At my place. I'll cook. Nothing fancy. Spaghetti." The offer was a peace treaty, a tentative one. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." Vargas returned, all business. "Okay, recess is over. Kate, you should go back to the witness room. We're calling you after the forensic accountant." She looked at me. "Emma, you're up after Kate. Just remember." "The truth, I know." She smiled, a real one that reached her eyes. "You've got this." The bailiff called the court back to order. The prosecution's first witness was a dry, meticulous man from the Defense Criminal Investigative Service who spent 3 hours walking the jury through financial records. Wire transfers from Sentinel subsidiaries to shell companies in Cyprus. Payments from those shell companies to accounts linked to the defendants. Invoices that were inflated by exactly 20%. The commission for the conspirators. It was numbing, detailed. and devastating. By the time Vargas said, "No further questions," the jury looked like they'd completed a graduate course in forensic accounting. Whitman's cross-examination was brief. "Isn't it true, Mr. Jenkins, that these complex corporate structures are common in international business?" "They can be, yes." "And isn't it true that you found no direct transfer from Sentinel Technologies to, say, Congressman Shaw's personal account?" "The money was routed through intermediaries, yes." "So it's possible these were legitimate business transactions that you simply don't understand." "Objection calls for speculation," Vargas said. "Sustained." But the point was made. Plausible deniability. That's what Whitman was selling. After lunch, they called Kate. She took the stand, was sworn in, and sat with her hands folded in her lap. Vargas took her through it gently. Her marriage to Jack, their lifestyle, the things she noticed but ignored. Kate's voice was clear, if sometimes thick with emotion. "And when did you first suspect something was wrong?" Vargas asked. "The day NCIS came to our door. About the watch." Kate looked at the jury, but I didn't want to believe it. So I blamed my sister. It was easier than facing the truth. "And what is the truth, as you now understand it?" Kate took a deep breath. "That my husband was a criminal, that the life we had was paid for with stolen money, and that I chose not to see it because I liked that life." "Did there come a point when you decided to cooperate with this investigation?" "Yes, after they found the notebook. After I saw the names. I realized it wasn't just Jack. It was a system, and I wanted it to stop." Vargas had her identify pages from the notebook, confirmed Jack's handwriting. Then she moved to the critical part. "Mrs. Sullivan, Kate, after you began cooperating, did you have any contact with the defendant Robert Garrison?" "Yes, he called me about a month after Jack was arrested." "What did he say?" Kate's knuckles were white where she gripped the rail of the witness stand. He said he was sorry about my troubles. He said Jack was a good man who'd made some mistakes. Then he said that sometimes in complex cases, witnesses get confused. They remember things wrong. He said if I were to get confused on the stand to forget certain details, it would be understandable, and that he would make sure I was taken care of afterward. "Did you understand that to be an attempt to influence your testimony?" "Yes, he was offering me a bribe to lie." "What did you do?" "I recorded the next call." Kate looked directly at Garrison. He stared back, his expression unreadable. "And I gave it to Agent Miller." Vargas played the recording. Garrison's smooth, avuncular voice filled the courtroom. "Kate, dear, we all want this unpleasantness to be over. Memories are fallible things. If you were to have a sudden recollection that perhaps some of the payments were for legitimate consulting work, well, no one could blame you. And Sentinel has a very generous assistance fund for military families in distress." When it ended, the courtroom was dead silent. Whitman looked like he'd bitten into a lemon. Vargas had no further questions. Whitman stood for cross, his demeanor now frosty. "Mrs. Sullivan, isn't it true that you are currently under investigation for your own role in this conspiracy? For receiving and spending the proceeds of these crimes?" Kate flinched. I've been told I could face charges, yes." "And isn't it true that the only reason you haven't been charged is because you agreed to testify against these men?" "I agreed to testify because it's the right thing to do. But it also helps you, doesn't it? The prosecutor has promised you a deal. Immunity, perhaps." "Objection assumes facts not in evidence," Vargas said. "Sustained." But again the damage was done. Kate's testimony was now framed as a transaction. Her freedom for their convictions. When Kate stepped down, she looked shaken. She paused by my chair as she passed. "He's good," she whispered. "The evidence is better," I whispered back. Then it was my turn. The bailiff wheeled me to the front, to the side of the witness stand where a ramp had been installed. A small accommodation that drew every eye in the room. I transferred to the witness chair, arranging my legs carefully. The jury watched, their expressions a mix of curiosity and pity. I hated the pity, but today I'd use it. Vargas began with the easy questions, my name, my background, my relationship to the players. Then she guided me to the beginning, The watch, the receipt, the call to NCIS. And why did you make that call, Emma? Vargas asked, her voice soft. Because I was afraid. I thought my brother-in-law was doing something illegal. And I was living in his house, using his money. If I said nothing and he was caught, I'd be complicit. If I said something, I might save my sister from going down with him. And what happened after you made the call? I told the story, the NCIS visit, Kate's rage, the flash drive, the threats, the night at Laura and David's, the safe house, O'Connell. I kept my voice even, factual. The drama was in the events themselves. They didn't need embellishment. And the second flash drive, Vargas said, the one found in your wheelchair, the one that contained, among other things, communications regarding the murder of Michael Carter. Did you ever have any direct contact with the defendant, Robert Garrison? No, but after Michael died, Mr. Garrison sent a very large floral arrangement to the funeral, with a card that said, "From your friends at Sentinel Technologies, we share in your loss." I looked at Garrison. He was staring at a legal pad, writing something. I thought it was kind at the time. Now I think it was a trophy. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Judge Rodriguez gavelled, once for quiet. Vargas took me through the encrypted messages from the flash drive. The text had cracked them. They were between a Sentinel executive and the man in the coveralls, the fixer, discussing the Carter problem, the need for a permanent solution, the arrangement with the trucking firm. When you read these messages, Emma, what did you understand them to mean? That Michael was killed because he was investigating Sentinel and that Robert Garrison ordered it. Objection. Whitman was on his feet. Calls for a conclusion. Lack of foundation. Sustained. The jury will disregard the witness's last statement. But they'd heard it, and the messages spoke for themselves. Vargas finished after 2 hours. I was tired, the muscles in my back aching from sitting upright, but clear-headed. Then Charles Whitman approached. He didn't smile. He studied me for a long moment, as if I were a puzzle he was trying to solve. Miss Carter, you were in a terrible accident, one that left you paralyzed. Yes, and your fiancé, Michael Carter, died in that accident. Yes, a double tragedy, unimaginable grief. His voice was dripping with faux sympathy, and in the aftermath, your sister and brother-in-law took you in, cared for you, paid for your medical treatment. Is that right? Yes, they were, in fact, your only support system. I had Michael's parents, but you lived with the Sullivans, relied on them for your day-to-day care, for your financial survival. I saw where he was going. Yes. And isn't it true, Miss Carter, that you and your sister had a difficult relationship even before this? That you were, perhaps, jealous of her marriage? Of her seemingly perfect life? Objection, irrelevant and argumentative, Vargas said. I'm establishing bias, Your Honor, Whitman said smoothly. I'll allow it. The witness may answer. I met Whitman's gaze. Kate and I are sisters. We've had fights, but I wasn't jealous of her life. I was grieving my own. But you were dependent on her and on her husband. A position of vulnerability, wouldn't you say? Of helplessness. The word hung in the air. Helplessness. He was painting a picture. A bitter, dependent woman, inventing a conspiracy to explain her own tragedy and destroy her caretakers. I was in a wheelchair, Mr. Whitman, not in a coma. I could see, I could think, and I could make a phone call when I saw a crime. A flicker of annoyance in his eyes. Good. This crime you saw. A watch. A man spending his own bonus money on a luxury item. That's what started all this. A watch he lied about, and bank records, and encrypted files. Files you accessed by snooping through his private computer. The computer was open. The files were running. Because you were in his private study, uninvited. I was looking for a book. He smirked, turning to the jury as if to say, "Do you believe that?" And this flash drive you found. Convenient, wasn't it? Appearing just when the case against your brother-in-law needed bolstering. I didn't put it there, but you can't prove that, can you? And the second one in your own wheelchair, you have no idea how it got there. No, but your client's co-defendant, Dr. Ross, has confessed to planting it under the instruction of Mr. Garrison's head of security. Whitman's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected me to know that. The confession had come in just this morning. That alleged confession is not in evidence. But it's the truth. Your truth, Miss Carter. A truth constructed from grief, from dependency, and from a desire for revenge against a world that took your fiancé and your legs. He leaned on the railing of the witness stand, invading my space. Isn't it possible, just possible, that Michael Carter's death was exactly what it appeared to be? A tragique accident? And that you, unable to accept that random cruelty, have concocted this elaborate story of murder and conspiracy because it gives you someone to blame? Because it makes you the heroine of your own tragedy, rather than just another victim? The question was brutal, designed to break me, to make me cry or rage or doubt myself in front of the jury. I took a breath. Let it out. I spent 2 years learning to tell the difference between real pain and phantom pain, Mr. Whitman. The nerves in my legs are dead, but sometimes they scream like they're on fire. My brain is trying to make sense of a loss it can't process. That's phantom pain. I looked at the jury, speaking directly to them now. What I felt when I saw that watch receipt wasn't phantom pain. It was real. What I heard in Jack's voice when he lied was real. What's in those financial records is real. And what's in those messages about Michael is real. I'm not constructing a story. I'm just finally reading the one that was already written. The courtroom was so quiet, I could hear the court reporter's fingers on the keys. Whitman stared at me. He'd thrown his best punch, and I hadn't flinched. He had nothing left. No further questions. Vargas stood for redirect. Emma, Mr. Whitman suggested you were motivated by a desire for revenge. Is that true? No, I was motivated by a receipt for a $50,000 watch that didn't make sense. Everything else came after. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor. As I was wheeled back to the prosecution table, I caught Miller's eye. He gave me a small, firm nod. Well done. The trial ground on for 3 more weeks. Jack testified, hollow-eyed and precise, corroborating every detail, providing the insider's view of the conspiracy. The defense tried to paint him as a liar, but the mountain of physical evidence, the money trails, the recordings, the documents, was too high. The fixer, the man in the coveralls, testified in exchange for a deal. He described the meeting with Garrison. He said, "The JAG attorney is digging too deep. He's a Boy Scout. He won't take the money. Make him go away." I asked how permanent. He said, "As permanent as it needs to be." Garrison didn't testify. His defense rested on Whitman's opening statement. It was all lies from criminals trying to save themselves. Finally, after closing arguments that stretched over 2 days, the case went to the jury. The wait was the worst part. For days of sitting in Miller's office at NCIS, watching the clock, jumping every time the phone rang. Kate came over on the 3rd day. We didn't talk about the trial. We watched bad reality TV and ate takeout. It was the most normal afternoon we'd had in a year. On the 4th day, the call came. The jury had reached a verdict. Back in courtroom 700, the air was electric. Every seat was full. Marshals lined the walls. The defendants were brought in, one by one. Garrison looked confident, smiling at his wife. Congressman Shaw looked pale. Admiral Reynolds stared straight ahead, his career, his retirement, his legacy all on the line. The jury filed in. Their faces gave nothing away. Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Rodriguez asked. A woman in the front row stood. We have, Your Honor. On count 1 of the indictment, conspiracy to commit bribery and fraud. As to defendant Robert Garrison, how do you find? A pause that seemed to last forever. Then, guilty. A gasp. Garrison's smile vanished. His wife began to cry. Count by count. Defendant by defendant. Guilty, guilty, guilty. When they reached the murder-for-hire charge against Garrison, the forewoman's voice shook slightly. Guilty. It was over. All of it. 9 defendants. Dozens of counts. A clean sweep for the prosecution. Judge Rodriguez set sentencing for 2 months hence. The defendants were remanded into custody, their bail revoked. As marshals handcuffed Robert Garrison, he finally looked at me. The avuncular mask was gone. In its place was pure, undiluted hate. Then he was led away. The courtroom exploded in noise. Reporters rushed out. Families hugged. Vargas was surrounded by a scrum of DOJ officials, shaking hands. I just sat there, letting the verdicts wash over me. Guilty, guilty, guilty. It was done. Miller crouched beside my chair. You did it, Emma. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. He smiled. Come on, there's a press conference. Vargas wants you there. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. I softened it. No press. No cameras. I'm done being the face of this. He studied me, then nodded. Okay, I'll tell her. What will you do? I looked across the room. Kate was standing by the door, waiting. I have dinner plans. Kate's apartment, Richmond, 2 months later, ****. The spaghetti was slightly overcooked, the garlic bread store-bought, and the salad came from a bag. It was the best meal I'd had in years. Kate's apartment was small, sunny, and filled with books and student artwork. No designer furniture, no expensive art, just a home. We ate at a small table by the window, overlooking a park where kids were playing. The silence between us was comfortable, for the first time in a long time. Sentencing is next week, Kate said finally, pushing her plate away. I know. The prosecutor says Garrison will get life. The congressman maybe 20 years. Reynolds, 15. She played with her napkin. Jack's already in. He's in a minimum security place in Pennsylvania. He writes me sometimes. Says he's reading a lot. Taking classes. Are you going to write back? She thought about it. Maybe. Someday. Not now. She looked at me. And you? Miller says you turned down the consultant job. I did, but I took a different one. The U.S. Attorney's Office hired me as a trial consultant. I help them understand medical evidence, and I consult on witness prep, how to handle experts, how to spot lies. Part-time, good benefits. A real smile touched her lips. You'll be good at that. I think so. I hesitated. I'm looking at apartments. Here in Richmond, there's a new complex near the river that's fully accessible, close to a good physical therapy center. Kate's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table, took my hand. Really? Yeah, I mean, if that's okay. I don't want to crowd you. You could never crowd me. She squeezed my hand. I'd like that, having you close. We did the dishes together, a familiar, quiet dance. Afterward, she made tea, and we sat on her small balcony as the sun set. Do you think it was worth it? She asked quietly, staring into her mug. All of it? The fight? The fear? Losing everything? I thought about Michael, about the sailors on ships who might have gotten faulty equipment, about the system that was a little cleaner now, about Kate, teaching 3rd grade in a modest apartment, finally living a life that was hers, not bought with stolen money. Yes, I said, it was worth it. She nodded, accepting that. We sat in silence as the sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue, the first stars appearing. The wounds were still there. They might always be there, but they were scars now, not open gashes. They marked where we'd been cut, but they also marked where we'd healed. 1 year later, Emma's apartment, Richmond, Virginia ***. My apartment faces east. Every morning, the sun comes up over the James River, painting my walls in gold. It's a 1-bedroom, modern and accessible, with wide doorways and a roll-in shower. I bought the furniture myself. Nothing fancy, just mine. I'm at my desk, reviewing a case file for the U.S. Attorney's Office, a fraud case involving veterans' benefits. I make notes in the margin, suggesting lines of questioning. My part-time job suits me. It uses my brain. It helps people. And nobody pities me here. I'm just Emma, the consultant who's good at spotting inconsistencies. My phone buzzes. A text from Kate. Dinner tonight? My turn to cook. I'm attempting chicken piccata. Pray for us. I smile, typing back, I'll bring wine. And the number for a good pizza place, just in case. Another buzz. Miller, got a new case. Potential procurement fraud at Army Depot. Your eyes would be useful. Coffee tomorrow. I reply, sure. 10 a.m. My usual spot. I save the file, close my laptop. Through the window, I can see the river, a few early morning joggers on the path below. A normal day. A good day. On the bookshelf, there's a framed photo. Michael and me, on the beach, the summer before he died. We're both laughing, squinting into the sun. I'm not in a wheelchair. He's not a ghost. We're just us, frozen in a moment of perfect happiness. I don't look at it every day anymore, but I'm glad it's there. The doorbell rings. I will check the peephole. It's David, holding a bag of bagels and a newspaper. Special delivery, he says, kissing my cheek as he comes in. Laura's at her garden club. I'm escaping. Bagels are a fair trade for sanctuary. I take them to the kitchen, put on coffee. David spreads the newspaper on the table. The headline reads, Procurement Scandal Reforms Pass Congress. Below it, a subhead, New Safeguards Inspired by Sentinel Case. He taps the article. Look at that. You change things, kid. For real. I pour the coffee, not sure what to say. The reforms were bipartisan, sweeping. Tighter controls on contracting. Stiffer penalties for bribery. An anonymous tip line, specifically for procurement fraud. They'd even named part of it the Carter provisions in Michael's memory. It was a legacy, a good one. It wasn't just me. I say finally, bringing the mugs to the table. No, but it started with you. He looks at me, his eyes serious. Michael would be proud. You know that, right? The words tighten my throat. I nod, unable to speak. We eat bagels and read the paper, talking about nothing important. The weather, the terrible traffic, Laura's roses, normal things. After he leaves, I get ready for my day. A morning of work, then physical therapy. A new therapist, a good one who doesn't take cash payments from defense contractors. Then dinner with Kate. As I'm heading out, my phone buzzes one last time. An email notification. The subject line, Invitation to Speak. NCIS Whistleblower Symposium. I open it. An invitation to give the keynote address at a conference for federal agents on how to work with whistleblowers, how to protect them, how to listen. I stare at it for a long moment. Then I hit reply. Thank you for the invitation. I would be honored. Please send details. I lock my apartment, wheel myself down the hall to the elevator. The sun is fully up now, bright and clear. The river sparkles. The elevator doors open. A neighbor, an older woman with a small dog, smiles at me. Good morning, Emma. Beautiful day. It is, I agree, a beautiful day. The doors close. The elevator descends. And I, Emma Carter, whistleblower, survivor, sister, consultant, move forward into the light.